tunic are soaked. They're sticking to me, it's very uncomfortable. Can't you have the cooks boil some hot water and bring it here? Qingxiu said impatiently. The cooks are exhausted from making food for over 50,000 men. They need rest too. Just bear with it. Li Yingqi looked pitiful, crawling over on her knees and tugging at his sleeve, shaking it. In a sweet voice, she said, "Please? I know you care for your soldiers. Just get me a little water, I'll wipe down quickly, or else I won't be able to sleep. AI, women, so troublesome. Fine, wait here, I'll get it for you myself." Shaking his head, Qingxiu took a few large pieces of dried beef and went to the cook's camp. There were hundreds of cooks with the army. Qingxiu picked one tent at random and entered. The cooks, already out of armor, quickly stood to salute when they saw the deputy commander. Qingxiu waved it off, handing each 2 pieces of dried beef. "This is beef jerky made personally by the Marquis. You can't buy it anywhere. Boil a pot of hot water for me and bring it to my tent." Smelling the enticing aroma, the cooks were overjoyed. Ordinary soldiers rarely even saw meat, let alone fragrant beef jerky. They thanked him profusely and hurried to boil the water. On his way back, Qingxiu noticed soldiers near his tent dismantling it. He asked in confusion, "What are you doing? Why are you taking down the tents? Who told you to do this?" "I told them to." Chang Yaojin emerged from somewhere, grinning with an ambiguous look. "You brought a bed warmer, but last night I didn't hear anything. You must be afraid others will ruin the mood. So, I'm having these boys move farther away, can't have them spoiling things for you." Qingxiu was dumbfounded, his mouth twitching nonstop. Chang seemed not to notice, barking orders at the soldiers. "Hurry up, move faster, farther away, at least 100 paces. 1 step less and I'll kick you. Heh, nephew, I've done all I can. The rest is up to you. I can't help you more than this." Humming a tune he'd learned from the pleasure houses, Chang walked away, leaving Qingxiu standing there bewildered. This Chang Yaojin really knows his stuff, huh? Li Yingqi saw Qingxiu return and hurriedly asked, "How is it? How is it? Did you boil the hot water?" Qingxiu silently nodded, then sat back down to eat sausage and beef, drinking rice wine. Whenever Li Yingqi wasn't paying attention, he would also pop a few fried peanuts into his mouth. Soon, a large pot of hot water and a copper basin were brought over by the camp cooks. Qingxiu refused their offer to carry the pot inside, sent them away, and personally carried the pot himself. With both hands gripping the rim, he effortlessly lifted the pot of water weighing over 100 jin and brought it into the tent. This scene left some soldiers watching from a distance completely stunned. Even Li Yingqi was so surprised to see Qingxiu carry the heavy pot so easily that her jaw dropped. "The water's here, hurry up and wash." Li Yingqi was sincerely grateful, thanked him, then stood blushing beside the hot water, unsure how to begin. She looked at Qingxiu timidly and said, Can you step outside for a bit?" Qingxiu lifted his clothes with displeasure. "Step outside for what? I'm washing with you." "Huh?" Li Yingqi felt her vision go black in shock. "What, huh? You heard me. I said I'm washing with you. Hurry up, stop dawdling." Li Yingqi stood frozen, face flushed red, until she saw that Qingxiu was already down to only a pair of underpants. Then she snapped back to herself, stealing a glance before turning away to scold through her blush. "Shameless. Vulgar. No decency." Qingxiu chuckled. "Don't forget, you still owe me 300 immortal beans. You have to repay with your body 300 times. By then, the things I do will be even more shameless, vulgar, and indecent. This is nothing." Li Yingqi was left speechless. But in her mind now was only the image of Qingxiu's well-built torso, healthy bronze-toned skin, not quite broad as a bear but with a shape full of aesthetic strength, and of course, 8 distinct abs. His skin's smoothness was almost on par with her own as a girl's. Qingxiu wet a towel and began wiping sweat from his body, smiling as he said, "Are you washing or not? If not, forget it, there's only this much water. Once I use it up, don't regret it, because I won't fetch more for you. I'll wash. Leave me some." In her urgency, Li Yingqi came to her senses and, gritting her teeth, began her own washing. Since the tent was so dark, she comforted herself that he probably couldn't see clearly. But soon after, "Come over and help me scrub my back." You wish. Heh, I can reduce your debt by 1 bean. If you follow my instructions in the future and I'm satisfied, maybe I'll reduce more." "You said it. Then you'd better give me more things to do." Qingxiu smiled. "Oh, I will. For example, I can give you one task right now that will cut your debt by 100 beans. 100 beans? Li Yingqi's eyes lit up instantly. She grabbed his arm in excitement, forgetting propriety. "Quick, tell me. What do you want me to do? It's simple, just repay with your body once right now." Li Yingqi really fell for it. But thinking that one early repayment could reduce 10 beans of debt, she was tempted. If she did it several more times early, wouldn't the debt be gone? Still, she grew nervous. But there are soldiers all around. Here, like this, I'm afraid. Qingxiu shook his head. No need to worry. All the soldiers nearby have already moved 100 paces away. If we keep it quiet, they won't hear. When did they move? Li Yingqi was confused. While the water was boiling. Li Yingqi's face showed hesitation. Thinking about stepping into the tiger's jaws, she couldn't help feeling uneasy. Don't want to? If not, forget it. Miss this chance and there won't be another. Wait. 10 beans is too few. Make it 30, no, 20, no, 30. She held up 3 fingers with all sincerity. Qingxiu's mouth fell open. Was there something wrong with her head? 30 is too much? Then, 20 isn't impossible either. But definitely not 10, that's too few. The corner of Qingxiu's mouth twitched. Fine, since you're being so obedient, 30 it is. Li Yingqi was delighted, but then thought she should have asked for 50. That way she could cut 50 repayments. Still, 30 was good enough. Better than 1 or 10. She was satisfied, she just wanted to quickly pay back the beans she owed. Li Yingqi, oh Li Yingqi, this is what you get for being greedy. You brought this on yourself. You ate so many of someone's precious immortal beans, body repayment is already lenient. At least he didn't make your whole family repay. A heroine's creed is simple, you take responsibility for what you do. Soon, repayment time came. From inside the tent came Li Yingqi's muffled mutterings, her way of coping. When some external factor intrudes, almost every creature shaped like her will choose such self-expression to ease uncontrollable normal reactions. By midnight, Li Yingqi lay with her back to Qingxiu, eyes slightly red, a few tears slipping down in silence as she paid for her theft, with the most precious thing she had kept for over a decade. Although her sobs were faint and she tried hard to suppress her emotions, Qingxiu still sensed them keenly. From behind, he wrapped his arms around her and whispered into her ear. I understand how you feel right now, but everyone has to go through certain moments sooner or later. Though I haven't entered your heart yet, He finished the words, though whether Li Yingqi heard them was another matter. But they made her blush, ears burning, turning her shame into anger. The next morning, because Li Yingqi was in no condition, Qingxiu told her to stay in his tent while he went early to the temporary command post. The scouts reported that the Turkic army had already set out and would reach the Wei River in less than 2 hours, unless they were ambushed. In no more than half an hour, the Turkic army would face the Tang army's flanking attack from the rear left. Mid-Autumn Festival, Grand Court Assembly. Outside the Hall of Supreme Harmony, on both sides of the Jade Steps, crowds surged like a sea of people, at least 2,000 officials. They were all local officials from various parts of the Tang Empire, here to attend the once-a-year Grand Court Assembly. The Grand Court Assembly begins, all ministers bow. As a eunuch's sharp voice announced the start, officials from all over began performing the bowing ritual. This was also the only time in the entire year when ministers knelt before the emperor. The envoy of the Kingdom of Day presents 10 chests of treasures, congratulating the Tang Empire on winning the hearts of all under heaven, with all tribes submitting. The envoy of Siam presents 10 chests of jade to express gratitude for the Tang Empire's heavenly protection and virtue. Harabunchai presents 100 ivory tusks, praying for favorable winds and rain for the Tang, and for all people to submit. Silla presents. Dozens of small foreign states had come to pay tribute. Goguryeo presents 10 roots of 1,000-year-old ginseng. Though so many small nations paid tribute, showing the Tang's might, Emperor Li Er at this moment showed little excitement or joy. His mind was on the coming battle with the Turks. If the Turkic cavalry broke through the Tang army's defenses, then this appearance of universal submission would become a joke. Meanwhile, 30 li south of Weinan, behind a barren mountain range. Report. A scout rode hard, leapt from his horse, and rushed to Yuqigong. General Yuqi, the main Turkic army is less than 10 li away. In half an hour they will enter the ambush zone. Yuqigong, with 2 steel whips hanging from his waist and a massive lance of dozens of jin in his hand as if weightless, stood over 8 feet tall with the same in chest circumference, his fierce face like a black bear war god. A grin twisted his face as he raised the lance and shouted, Brothers, we are Tang people, your kin and countrymen. Whether our people can live in peace from now on depends on our performance today. Stay sharp. When we strike, take as many heads as you can. Don't let Ho Junji look down on our left guard. Scout, ride at once and tell Ho Junji, in half an hour we charge together. Yes. The scout mounted and rode toward barren hills 5 li away. 10 li outside the ambush zone. Tuli flicked his horsewhip and said respectfully to the middle-aged man beside him on horseback, Great Kagan, don't you think it's strange that our raid toward Chang'an has gone so smoothly? We haven't met any real resistance along the way. That's not right. Jie sneered, why not? Tuli, have you forgotten last year at this time, when we marched south toward Chang'an, their defenses were even weaker? Li Shimin still agreed to tribute us a huge amount of gold, silver, and jewels. A younger general with a mustache, wearing a sheepskin robe, laughed, Tuli Kaghan, your worry is unnecessary. The Tang Emperor is spineless, this time will be no different. In the end, Li Shimin will pay gold and silver for peace and ask us to withdraw. Tuli frowned, c16, you can't just look at the surface. Why are we attacking Tang this time? Knowing he can't match the Turks, Li Shimin still detained Ashinayu. From what I know, he's not a rash emperor who acts on impulse. On the contrary, from the reports of our agents in Chang'an, he's an ambitious and strategic ruler. Without the power to resist, he wouldn't provoke us. If he's done so now, there must be a scheme. c16 asked, so where's the trick? Jie snorted, pointing his whip at the massive army behind. Tuli, look. We have 200,000 Turkic cavalry. Not just attacking Tang, we could sweep the whole land. Even if there's a scheme, could he wipe us out in one blow? Tuli gave a dry laugh. Great Kaghan, I'm just being cautious. Haha. Jie laughed, then reassured him, relax. Last year, Tang couldn't resist 100,000 of our troops and paid tribute. This time, we've come with 200,000. I don't believe they've grown strong enough in 1 year to fight us head-on. Tuli nodded, the Great Kaghan speaks the truth. But Jie frowned, still, why did Li Shimin detain my daughter? Doesn't he know this is our peak strength? He couldn't figure it out, nor could Tuli or c16. Unable to solve the puzzle, Jie waved his whip, men, speed up. In half an hour we rest at Longmapo, 30 li from Weinan, then we strike straight for Chang'an. When we take Chang'an, we'll feast on meat, drink wine, and enjoy Tang beauties. His words lifted the Turkic army's morale. Half an hour later, the army reached Longmapo. Jie ordered a rest, but before they could even sit down, the thunder of hooves and the deafening shout, kill, came from behind. Jie leapt up from the grass slope and shouted, what's going on back there? Enemy attack, Great Kaghan. Eyes wide, Jie roared, Li Shimin. You set an ambush to strike my army? Once I take Chang'an, I'll drink from your son's skull. How many are they? Although confident in his 200,000 troops, Jie worried the Tang might match their cavalry in strength, in which case the campaign would be wasted. Another report came, Great Kaghan, about 20,000 Tang troops, split in 2 forces, attacked our rear flanks. Our rear general is organizing resistance. Jie was incredulous, 20,000 dare attack my 200,000? They must have a death wish. Pass my order, gather all forces and encircle these Tang soldiers. I want their heads as a gift for Li Shimin. The order went out. But after less than half a stick of incense, a tribal chief arrived, saluted, and said, Great Kaghan, the 2 Tang forces were fast. They didn't linger in battle, after striking our flanks, they broke through and vanished. Jie kicked him, then what are you waiting for? Chase them down and kill them all. Tuli stopped him, Great Kaghan, don't underestimate this. It could be Tang's tactic to wear us out, using 20,000 to pin down our 200,000 while they await reinforcements. We mustn't fall for it. Jie froze, then smirked, you're right. He's stalling for reinforcements. We won't let him succeed. Then Jie ordered a count of casualties. After the casualty report came in, both Jie and Tuli felt their hearts sink. This surprise attack had cost them over 5,000 dead and wounded. Fortunately, it hadn't crippled their forces. Jie ordered the army to rest in place for 2 incense sticks' time before continuing toward the Wei River. But after just 1 incense stick, from the rear came the thunder of hooves again, along with shouts to kill. Report, Great Kaghan, the 20,000 Tang troops who attacked us earlier have returned and are charging recklessly into our formation. Jie flared up in rage, order the army to completely surround them and wipe them out. Tuli frowned, Great Kaghan, that might not be possible. Our army is too large, messages can't be passed quickly. By the time the orders reach all the tribal chiefs, those Tang troops will likely be long gone. Jie's voice was heavy, not possible this way, not possible that way, then tell me, what do we do? Tuli gave a bitter smile, Great Kaghan, when Tang troops charge, their mounts are at full speed. We were unprepared, our cavalry at rest can't take advantage of their strength. Standing still to resist only means being cut down. Better that once we drive these 20,000 Tang troops away, we don't rest here at all, we push straight into the heartland of Chang'an, pressuring Li Shimin directly, and quickly reach the Wei River area so he can't use his war of attrition strategy. Jie nodded darkly, we'll do that, then. After the Tang cavalry charged and quickly withdrew, the Turkic army counted losses, another 4 to 5,000 dead and wounded. Jieli gnashed his teeth, damn those cunning Tang troops. We haven't even reached Chang'an's heartland and I've already lost 10,000 men. I'll settle this account with you when I take Chang'an. Then he ordered the army to advance at full speed. The sight of 190,000 cavalry charging forward was magnificent. Half an hour later, Tuli pointed his whip at the open land ahead, smiling, Great Khagan, 5 li more to the Wei River. Those white dots ahead should be the Tang camp. Judging by their numbers, they can't have more than 50,000. Jieli sneered, 50,000 think they can resist our 200,000? Ridiculous. Before he could finish, he suddenly felt uneasy. His warhorse stumbled, one hoof plunging into a pit with a sharp crack, its leg broke instantly, and he was thrown to the ground. Tuli's face changed, he tried to pull the reins, but it was too late. His own horse stepped into a deep pit, breaking its leg, and he too was thrown off. Behind them, more cavalry came on, several horses stepped into pits and snapped their legs. Fortunately, Jieli and Tuli were quick enough to dodge the trampling hooves, otherwise they would have been crushed to death. Stop! Everyone stop! Jieli shouted from atop his fallen horse, but the army was too large for his voice to carry. He could only watch as warhorses galloped past him, stepping into pits and breaking their legs. The chaos lasted for a full incense stick's time. When it was over, Jieli looked at the field full of crippled, crying horses and soldiers with bloodied heads and faces, breathing heavily, eyes blood-red. Once the army stopped, z16 walked over dejectedly to report, Great Khagan, Little Khagan, the Tang have dug many horse traps here. We've lost over 20,000 horses, and about 3,000 brothers have died from falls or trampling. Jieli was so enraged he could barely breathe. Shameless! Utterly shameless! Damn you, Li Shimin, you cunning Tang troops! Everyone gather! We're detouring around, avoid the horse traps. The army regrouped and this time bypassed the trap field, going 10 li out of their way. At that moment, inside the Taiji palace, the Goguryeo envoy, Yun Gaesaman, was speaking rapidly in Korean, while an official from the Honglu temple translated for Li Er and the court. Your Majesty, the Goguryeo envoy says they come by order of King Ronglio to request marriage with a Tang princess for his son, to form an alliance and restore good relations. Li Er remained expressionless, but his eyes grew deep. The official continued, he says that if your Majesty agrees, Goguryeo will dismantle the burial mounds in Liaodong and return the remains left from the former dynasty's campaign against them. Li Er said coldly, tell him, marriage alliances are impossible. Tang princesses are priceless. From now on, I will uphold the principles of no marriage alliances, no tribute, no subjugation, no indemnities, and no ceding of land. The Son of Heaven guards the gates of the realm, the ruler dies defending the state. As for the hundreds of thousands of Han remains in Goguryo's burial mounds, I will personally take them back. I don't need them returned. Marriage alliance? Impossible. After the official translated, Yun Gaesaman raised an eyebrow and spoke another long string of words. The official's face changed, faint anger showing. Li Er noticed and asked, what is he crowing about? The official replied angrily, Your Majesty, he says that the Turkic army has entered Tang territory, and there will surely be a fierce battle. At that time, Tang forces will suffer heavy losses, and defenses will be at their weakest. If Tang refuses the alliance, he can't guarantee that King Ronglio won't send troops to attack Tang's Liaodong border, or even form a coalition with the Khitan. Tang could face destruction. Li Er's eyes widened, his face full of authority and fury. Chancellor Changsun Wuji shouted, How dare you? Such contempt for Tang's might, do you wish never to return to Goguryo? Goguryo envoy, you go too far. To insult the Tang so, who gave you such audacity? Your Majesty, the Goguryo envoy so despises our empire that his life is forfeit. I propose executing all of them to show our national might. I second that. This act by the Goguryo mission had angered every Tang official present. Whatever their internal rivalries, their national pride and honor were strong. Report. At that moment, an agent of the 100 cavalry came to report. Speak. Your Majesty, the Turkic army of 200,000 has reached Longmapo. Our 2 raids have killed 10,000, our losses are under 1,000. The Turks then charged into horse traps, losing more than 20,000 mounts. Good. Excellent. Li Er's face lit with joy. The nearby ministers were equally overjoyed, those unaware of the situation gasped in shock. This was an unexpected delight. Li Er turned a cold gaze on Yun Gaesaman and sneered, so, King Ronglio seeks to profit from Tang's troubles. No doubt he knew long ago of the Turks' plan to invade, which gave him the nerve for such arrogant demands. Very well. For a petty foreign state to be so insolent, ignoring Tang's might, today I will show you the power of my army. Gentlemen, will you join me atop the Xianmen city wall to watch our troops destroy the Turkic 200,000? Your Majesty, I will go. I will go. I too will go. One after another, the ministers eagerly agreed. Li Er waved his hand, leading the main force and all the envoys to the Xianmen city wall. Before the Turkic army had even reached the Wei River, they had already lost over 30,000 men, a result that left both Jieli and Tuli smoldering with anger. Jieli led his army past the horse traps, and soon the two forces faced each other, with the Turks only a little over 300 paces from the artillery position. Stop! Jieli raised his hand to halt the advancing army, pointed his whip at the hundreds of cannons in front of them, and asked in confusion, "What are those? Has anyone seen them before?" Tuli shook his head, and z16 also shook his head to show he didn't know. Tuli urged his horse forward, frowning, "Great Khagan, beware of a trick. We came here with 200,000 troops, Li Shimin can't possibly be unaware. But look, south and north of the Wei River combined, there are barely 20 to 30,000 men. He expects 20 to 30,000 to resist our 200,000? Even though we've lost 30,000 cavalry, we still have 170,000. The gap in strength is huge. For the Tang to station so few troops here is suspicious." z16 said, "Tuli Khagan, is it possible these are all the forces Tang has left to guard Chang'an?" "It's possible." Jieli nodded, then muttered in puzzlement, "Li Shimin really intends to fight us with just 20 to 30,000 troops? That's looking down on the fighting power of Turkic cavalry too much." Tuli frowned, "Great Khagan, we'd better be cautious. We were ambushed by Tang troops 30 li away, clearly Li Shimin has no thought of making peace, or he wouldn't have sent forces to attack us." Jieli thought for a moment, then said to z16, "Grand Marshal, ride forward and challenge them. See who commands the Tang army here and tell him to come out and answer." z16 agreed and rode ahead until he was only 30 to 40 paces from the Tang lines, a safe distance. "Who commands this Tang battle formation? Who is the Tang commander-in-chief? Come out and answer." General Cheng Yaojin, guarding the artillery position, rode forward with a lance of dozens of jin in hand. Chest out and head high, he came to within less than 10 meters of z16, his face stern. "The one guarding this place is your grandpa Cheng Yaojin. I've seen you before, your name is z16, isn't it?" z16 sneered, "General Cheng, good memory. We met when I visited your palace last year. Tell me, who is the Tang commander-in-chief this time?" Cheng Yaojin snorted, "The commander is Duke Wei, Li Jing. But Duke Li Jing is unwell and has handed over command to the Deputy General Manager, Marquis of Jin State, Qingxiu. z16, do me a favor and ask your Great Khagan this, why doesn't he stay on the grasslands as a cow or horse? Why come to Chang'an?" z16 said loudly, "No need to ask our Great Khagan, I can answer. This time we came to bring our Turkic princess back to the steppe. Have your Emperor Li Shimin personally send her over, along with 10,000 Tang beauties and 1,000 chests of gold and silver. Otherwise, my 200,000 iron cavalry will trample Chang'an, and when the city falls, no one will be spared." Cheng Yaojin's eyes narrowed and he shouted angrily, "How dare you? You barbarians even dare call His Majesty by name. If you want to fight, then charge, no need for more words. I'll let you barbarians witness the power of our Tang artillery." He turned his head, "All units prepare. The Turks show signs of charging, no need for me to give the order, just open fire." Behind him, the artillerymen each raised their torches high. Behind the Wei River, Qingxiu said to the captain of the flying corps, "I'll go to the front lines. If you hear cannon fire, don't wait for orders, immediately throw grenades at the Turks." The flying corps captain nodded solemnly, then rose into the air in a hot air balloon. z16 returned to the Turkic lines and exchanged words with Jieli. Jieli, his face dark, rode forward arrogantly, pointing his whip at Cheng Yaojin, "Tang General, I am Jieli, Great Khagan of the Turks. Have Li Shimin come out and speak to me personally." Cheng Yaojin's tiger eyes glared as he roared, "Dog thief. If you want to fight, fight. Why waste words? If not, crawl back to the grasslands. His Majesty is priceless, you barbarians are not fit to meet him." Jieli had never suffered such humiliation. His chest swelled with rage, breath unsteady. But he kept the last bit of reason. He knew that the Tang had only 10,000 men across the Wei River, yet they faced his hundreds of thousands without fear, even shouting for battle. Clearly, they had some reliance, otherwise, they wouldn't be so arrogant. "General Cheng, the deputy commander is here." Cheng Yaojin turned to see Qingxiu riding up slowly. Cheng saluted, "Deputy commander." "No need for ceremony," Qingxiu said, waving a hand. He leaned forward in the saddle with a smile, "You're Jieli. Jieli was tall, nearly 1.9 meters, weighing about 200 jin, with small braids on his head, a scruffy beard, a curved scimitar at his waist, and a clearly foreign face. It was hard to imagine that such a rough man had a daughter as stunning as Ashinayu. Her mother's genes must have been very strong. Jieli said in a deep voice, "I am Jieli, Khagan of the Turks." "And you are?" Chang Yaojin answered for him, "This is our commander-in-chief, Marquis of Jin State, Qingxiu." Jieli immediately said angrily, "Is Li Shimin brainless? He actually lets a snot-nosed kid lead an army? This is openly insulting me, simply intolerable. You brat, get lost and send Li Shimin himself to speak with me." Qingxiu chuckled, "Now, father-in-law, don't be angry. Hear me out." "You, what did you call me?" Jieli's eyes widened in disbelief. "I called you father-in-law," Qingxiu said seriously. Jieli's head buzzed. He jumped with rage, "Damn it. What have you done to my precious daughter?" Qingxiu smiled, "It's like this, Ashinayu bought something from me but didn't pay. She owes me 90,000 strings of silver. So I had no choice but to detain her and ordered her to repay within 2 months. But who would have thought that the princess of the Turks, whose father is the great Khagan of the entire steppe, couldn't come up with 90,000 strings? She couldn't repay the debt, so she chose to pay with her body. Though her status is a bit beneath me, she's not bad-looking, so I reluctantly took her into my household as a concubine. So you see, Princess Yu is now my concubine, and of course I call you father-in-law, haha." The veins on Jieli's forehead bulged, and his eyes seemed to spit fire. This was simply infuriating beyond words. Insolent! Insolent! This is going too far, utterly intolerable. Jieli, eyes bloodshot, roared, "I will break through Chang'an. I will slaughter the city. I will tear you to pieces, skin you alive, and pull out your tendons." He drew his scimitar, turned his horse, and galloped madly toward the main force, shouting, "Men! The Tang commander has defiled the Turkic princess, defiled your moon goddess. Kill! Kill all these Tang soldiers. Level Chang'an. Charge!" "What? The Tang commander defiled our goddess?" More than 80% of the Turkic army revered Ashinayu as a goddess. Now hearing such words, they were instantly furious, eyes red, brandishing their scimitars as they charged forward. "Kill!" The sound was deafening, the hooves like rolling thunder. On the Tang side, Qingxiu raised his arm and shouted, "Artillery, prepare! Fire! Fire! Fire for me!" Chang Yaojin also bellowed in excitement. The gunners all lit the fuses. Boom! With each thunderous blast, shells exploded among the Turkic army, throwing men and horses into the air. Almost every shell claimed the lives of 7 or 8 cavalry and their mounts, many more were wounded by the blasts. Hearing the booming explosions, Jieli was stunned, his pupils contracting and dilating, a chill rushing straight to his skull. Tuli also felt a surge of fear. Zhishisili turned pale with fright. Tuli rode up to Jieli, his voice trembling, "Great Khagan, how can the Tang have such a powerful weapon? The sound is like thunder." Zhishisili ran up in panic, "Great Khagan, this isn't good. I don't know what kind of weapon the Tang are using, one black lump can kill 7 or 8 of our men." Jieli whipped him angrily, "I can see that myself, no need for you to say it. What do we do? Do we retreat?" Even Tuli was shaken, this wasn't a weapon, it was divine punishment. Jieli gritted his teeth, "It's too late to retreat now. Before the damage becomes too great, everyone charge forward and push those black iron tubes into the Wei River." Tuli nodded grimly, there was no other choice. The surviving Turkic cavalry had already reached the artillery line. Chang Yaojin shouted in excitement, "Men! Kill with me!" He charged in front, swinging his lance, light as straw in his hands, felling 2 or 3 enemies with each sweep. Qingxiu was not to be outdone, also wielding a lance as he rushed into battle. Though his sword skills were formidable, in the chaos of the battlefield the lance was more practical. The shaft alone was 1.5 meters long, with nearly a meter of blade, over 2 meters in total, a true cavalry weapon. The horse-cutting saber was modeled after the lance. Chang Yaojin fought while keeping an eye on Qingxiu, but when he saw Qingxiu holding the 40 to 50 jin lance in one hand and swinging it like a whip, he was stunned. How strong must one be to wield such a weapon as if it were nothing? Qingxiu, reins in one hand and lance in the other, left chaos in his wake, enemies falling in heaps, some decapitated, some cleaved in half, others skewered like candied fruit and flung aside. In short, fierce. 2 words, very fierce. On the Xianmen Gate Tower? Li Er held a monocular telescope, watching the battle with excitement. Envoys from the foreign states also observed. Though far away, they could see clearly, the Tang had no more than 20,000 troops, facing nearly 10 times that number of Turks. 20,000 against 200,000? When had the Tang army become so formidable? Yun Geisemen's face darkened, his heart uneasy. Suddenly, his view went dark. The Tang Emperor had stepped in front of him, smiling coldly. He hurriedly bowed. Li Er handed him the monocular. Take a good look. This is your so-called 200,000 Turkic troops. You want to profit from our troubles? Ridiculous. After the translator repeated the words, Yun Geisemen nervously took the telescope, imitated Li Er's posture, and looked. His mouth dropped open in disbelief. He glanced down at the device in his hands, astonishment plain on his face. What was this thing? A small iron tube, yet it could see so far? This was a divine artifact. Ever since Jingxiu mastered glassmaking, he had craftsmen produce a few monoculars, just some convex and concave lenses in a tube, simple to make. Once Li Er experienced the telescope's wonders, he refused to give it back, more shameless than a bandit. Seeing Yun Geisemen's shocked expression, Li Er sneered, "Bumpkin from the frozen wastes, never seen such a thing? This is the telescope invented by Marquis Qing. From a high place, you can see the scene several li away." The translator repeated this, and Yun Geisemen flushed red, taking another look at the battlefield. This time, the sight shocked him even more. What were those round, black iron tubes? He saw a man light a fuse, and an iron ball flew out, exploding where it landed, as terrifying as thunder, each blast sending men and horses flying. And that huge sphere in the sky, what was that? Beneath it hung a basket with 4 men inside. 2 turned a winch, 1 lit a black object on a sling, another aimed and launched it. On landing, its explosion was even more devastating than the iron balls from the cannons. These grenades could be thrown several hundred paces, right into the densest part of the Turkic ranks. With such terrifying weapons, even Goguryeu's seemingly impregnable fortresses would be rubble in a day or two. Yun Geisemen turned pale, his body trembling. Li Er noticed, patted his shoulder, and sneered, "Well, esteemed Goguryeo general, what do you think?" After hearing the translation, Yun Geisemen swallowed and pointed at the great balloons. "Those, what are they?" Li Er proudly said, "Those are hot air balloons developed by my Marquis Qing." Yun Geisemen's gaze sharpened, "And those thunder-like weapons, also invented by Marquis Qing?" "Of course." Yun Geisemen lowered his head in thought, but his eyes now burned with killing intent. This man cannot be allowed to live. In the future, he will surely be Goguryeu's greatest threat. Inside Chang'an City, people were already gripped by fear. Ever since the city gates were shut early that morning, all kinds of rumors had begun to spread. The sounds of artillery shells and grenades exploding, though far away, still reached the ears of many in Chang'an. Even during a thunderstorm, lightning strikes were never so frequent. So many citizens chose to stay indoors, making the whole city look unusually desolate and cold. The faces of Jie and Tu Li were also growing uglier by the minute. Especially after seeing grenades thrown from the hot air balloons opposite them, the hearts of the 2 khans turned cold. Covered in dust, Tu Li came over to Jie with a distressed look and said, "Great Khan, let's retreat. The Tang army's weapons are simply too powerful. Even if we push those iron tubes into the Wei River, they can still throw explosives from across the river. Our army has already suffered heavy casualties. If this goes on, I fear all our 200,000 troops will be lost here." Jie Li's breathing quickened. His previous arrogance was gone, and his face was now full of unease. Just as he was hesitating, he heard some Turks nearby shouting in terror. "The heavenly gods are angry. The heavenly gods are angry. We've killed too many Tang people. The gods who protect the Tang can't bear it anymore. The heavenly gods are angry. Please, heavenly gods, spare us. Please, heavenly gods, spare us. Heavenly gods, we beg you, calm your anger. Stop the thunder." The ones saying this were Turkic soldiers who hadn't seen what was happening at the front. They were a deeply superstitious people, with all kinds of gods in their beliefs: grassland gods, bright moon gods, grain gods, plateau gods, wolf gods. They called them all heavenly gods. In a situation where they couldn't see the enemy and only saw grenades falling from the sky, many Turks believed these exploding objects were the wrath of the gods. Hearing this kind of talk made Jie and Tu Li almost explode with anger. The situation was already bad enough, and now this group of ignorant men was spreading rumors here. The rumor spread quickly, 1 to 10, 10 to 100, and soon the Turkic army's morale collapsed. Many knelt down to beg the gods' forgiveness, kowtowing repeatedly. The number of kneeling men only grew. "Retreat! Retreat!" Jie roared at the top of his lungs. Not far away, the horn was blown. It was the signal to withdraw. Tu Li shouted to the hornblower, "Tell the soldiers to return the way we came and avoid the horse traps." As the horn echoed, the Turkic cavalry, already drained of their will to fight, spurred their horses toward the direction they had come from. Behind them, in the rear of a village, Zhang Liang saw the Turks starting to collapse. Drawing his tang saber, he shouted excitedly, "Brothers, it's time for us to win our glory. Follow me." Then, leading 10,000 cavalry, Zhang Liang charged straight at the broken Turkic army. A deputy general beside him said, "General, the Turkic army may be in disarray, but they still have over 100,000 men. We only have 10,000. Isn't it too rash to charge straight in?" Zhang Liang replied, "I may not like that young deputy commander, but since he's the commander, we must follow his orders. And who told you we only have 10,000 men?" "Huh?" The deputy general was puzzled. Zhang Liang grinned, pointing to the flank. "Look, what's that?" The deputy general's eyes widened in delight. "It's General Yuqi and General Ho Junji leading 20,000 elite troops. In that case, we don't have to worry about being surrounded." Zhang Liang laughed. "Even if we were surrounded, so what? Don't we still have the deputy commander and Chang Yaojin's 20,000 elites at the front? The Turkic army is already doomed. Once an army collapses, it's like a landslide, maybe our 50,000 elites can wipe them out entirely. Men, charge." Zhang Liang's 10,000, Yuqi Jingda's 10,000, and Ho Junji's 10,000 charged from three directions, left, right, and front, toward the Turks. Seeing the sudden appearance of three Tang forces, Jieli broke out in a cold sweat. In the past, he wouldn't have feared even twice as many Tang troops in a head-on battle. But now, his cavalry looked utterly defeated, with hardly any will to resist. Facing the Tang charge now was like adding frost to snow. Still, as supreme commander, Jieli knew the importance of morale. Even though his voice couldn't carry over the thunder of hooves, he led by example. He drew his war blade and, calling to his generals, charged to the very front. The rear Turkic soldiers, seeing their great Khan so fierce, were stirred. Those who saw him regained some spirit, their faces twisted with ferocity as they charged at the 30,000 Tang troops. But there were too many Turks overall, and only about 10,000 saw Jieli's bravery. The rest, unable to see, remained demoralized. The earlier bombardment had left a deep psychological scar. All they wanted now was to flee the battlefield. Hearing the sounds of combat ahead only made those in the rear panic. They rushed forward blindly, afraid of being captured if they lagged, with no will to resist. After about the time it takes to burn 2 sticks of incense, the 30,000 Tang troops had finished breaking through. The Turkic army collapsed completely, fleeing north. Yuqi Jingda, Ho Junji, and Zhang Liang met up successfully. Yuqi Jingda put away his spear and shouted to the Tang troops behind him, "Check the casualties. Send scouts around to inform the Grand Commander that the Turkic army has fled, so he can arrange to wipe them out in one strike." While casualties and kills were being counted here, the same was happening by the Wei River. Chang Yaojin returned to the north bank and, seeing Qing Xiu, couldn't stop grinning. He laughed loudly. "Deputy Commander, a great victory. This time we've truly won big. How are the casualties?" Qing Xiu asked. Chang Yaojin replied excitedly, "Under the bombardment of cannons and grenades, the Turks had no heart to fight and completely lost formation. This time we lost just over 2,000 men, while the Turks had over 30,000 killed and over 8,000 captured, plus more than 10,000 warhorses seized." Qing Xiu was quite satisfied with the result. With Turkic casualties and captives totaling nearly 40,000, a force of 10,000 elite Tang troops had fought against 170,000 to 180,000 Turkic cavalry, killing more than 30,000, capturing over 8,000, nearly 40,000 in all. Yuqi Jingda, Ho Junji, and Zhang Liang returned with their troops. The three came before Qing Xiu and cupped their hands in salute. Qing Xiu asked, "How was the battle?" Yuqi Jingda did not look as overjoyed as Chang Yaojin had earlier. Instead, with a heavy expression, he said, "We killed 26,000 enemies, but we lost over 7,000 men. I didn't expect that even in retreat, the Turkic cavalry would fight so bravely." Qing Xiu frowned. The Turks had already been bombed into disarray. Why were our casualties so high? Yuqi Jingda continued, "Deputy Commander, you don't know, Jieli and Tuli, the two Turkic Khans, led from the front themselves. The tens of thousands of Turkic cavalry at the front were full of fighting spirit. On top of that, we met them head-on. Losing 7,000 men is actually not much." Ho Junji also said, "In the first and second surprise attacks, our total casualties were under 1,000. But in the head-on clash, the casualties reached about 8,000. The exact number is still being counted. We have already sent scouts to inform the Grand Commander. Judging from the Turks' retreat route, they will pass through Haishiku within 2 hours. 10,000 fresh troops have already been deployed there." Qing Xiu asked, "What is the terrain like at Haishiku?" Zhang Liang drew 2 vertical lines in the dirt with his saber, then pointed to the space in between and said, Haishiku is a few bare rocky hills covered with piles of pitch-black stones. This here is Haishiku. On both sides are stone hills, and in the middle is a flat mountain road about 5 li long and roughly 200 paces wide. If the Turks don't pass through here, they will have to take a detour of more than 200 li. I believe they will definitely go through Haishiku. Qingxiu nodded, and then, moved by a thought, asked, what kind of black stones are they? Zhang Liang explained, black as ink, and the fragments will burn when touched by fire. The entire hills are like that. Coal? Qingxiu's eyes lit up, but he didn't ask further. So Haishiku turned out to be an open-pit coal mine, a very good mineral resource. With coal, did that mean it might be possible to try generating electricity? But for now, the coal mine had no great use for him. Deputy Commander, what do we do next? Chang Yaojin asked. Qingxiu said, leave 10,000 men here to count the casualties and report the results to His Majesty. You come with me, let's lead 30,000 elite cavalry to Haishiku. Although the Turks are defeated, they still have around 100,000 men, all of them strong fighters. If the 10,000 fresh troops can't handle them, it could be dangerous. To make sure nothing goes wrong, we'll go support the Grand Commander. After giving these simple orders, Qingxiu led 4 officers and 30,000 men straight toward Haishiku. Over an hour later, Li Jing sat behind a bare hill at Haishiku, resting with his eyes closed. Just then, a scout rushed up in excitement. They're here, Grand Commander. The Turkic army is here. They've already reached Haishigu, 10 li away. They'll be at Haishiku in less than half an hour. Li Jing opened his eyes and asked, how many of them? By rough count, between 100,000 and 110,000. Li Jing was shocked. Out of 200,000 Turkic troops, only this many are left? The scout said, I didn't dare get too close, but judging by their morale, they've been defeated. The whole army looks demoralized. Li Jing nodded, stood up, and said, 50,000 men will follow me to set up at the northern end of Haishiku. Duan Jishuan, you take 50,000 and guard here. Once the Turkic army enters Haishiku, seal off their retreat. With that, Li Jing took his 50,000 to arrange his forces. Jieli led 110,000 beaten soldiers forward slowly. Less than 3 li from Haishiku, Tuli frowned at the bare black hills ahead and said, Great Khan, that's Haishiku. If we don't want to take a long detour, we have to pass through it. But Haishiku is very suitable for an ambush. Jieli asked gravely, you think the Tang have laid an ambush there? Tuli nodded. It's possible. Better to be careful. Jieli pointed to a cavalryman. You, go scout ahead and see if there are any signs of Tang troops. Yes. But before the rider could leave, urgent hoofbeats came from behind. Great Khan. Bad news, Great Khan. Another cavalryman, pale and flustered, galloped up. The Tang army is chasing from behind. Jieli's face changed. How many are they? At least 100,000, the rider stammered. They're less than 10 li behind us. At full speed, they'll catch up in less than the time it takes to burn 1 stick of incense. What? 100,000? Jieli's eyes widened in disbelief. An hour and a half ago, in battle, the Tang had no more than 60,000 men. How could there be 100,000 now? If they had that many, why didn't they join the 30,000 in the charge? You're lying. The cavalryman went pale, trembling. I'm not lying. They really have 100,000. Jieli turned to Tuli. Tuli, what do you think we should do next? Tuli thought for a moment. Our men's morale is low. Even against 50,000 Tang, we couldn't fight. The priority is to retreat quickly to a safe place. Nearby, Zishisali's eyes lit up. Pointing at Haishiku, he said, since the Tang are chasing us, why not set an ambush at Haishiku? We can trap the Tang in the pass and attack from both sides, wiping them out. Jieli's eyes lit up at the idea, but he still looked to Tuli. Tuli glanced again at Haishiku. Better to scout it first. A Turkic cavalryman quickly rode into Haishiku. Circling around the hills at the outer edge, he saw no sign of Tang troops and returned to report. Tuli let out a breath of relief, and Jieli also relaxed with a smile. Looks like the Tang don't have extra troops for an ambush here. Tuli, can you rest easy now? Tuli nodded. In that case, let's go in first and pick the best spot for an ambush. So Jieli waved his hand and led the army into Haishiku. Almost as soon as they entered, Qingxiu arrived with 30,000 cavalry. Seeing the Turks plunge into the pass, Qingxiu smiled slightly and turned to the generals. We'll block the entrance. The rest is up to the Grand Commander. Chang Yaojin, Yuqi Jingda, and the others all grinned. Soon, 30,000 cavalry sealed off the entrance to Haishiku, ready to wrap things up. Jieli and Tuli led the Turkic army into Haishiku. How many soldiers do we still have? Jieli suddenly asked. Z16, who was in charge of counting the casualties, spoke in a low, gloomy voice, "Great Khan, we have fewer than 120,000 soldiers left. Around 70,000 were killed in battle, more than 10,000 are wounded, and about 10,000 were captured by the Tang army." Jieli swayed slightly, his face pale, and spoke in a strained, bitter tone, 200,000 troops, and in just half a day, only 120,000 remain. Damn Tang army, how can they have such powerful weapons? What on earth are they? A nearby tribal leader asked nervously, "Great Khan, could those be divine weapons given to the Tang by the heavenly gods?" Jieli's face darkened. He raised his whip and lashed the leader across the face. The man screamed, clutching the bloody welt, and looked at Jieli in fear, not understanding why he had been struck. Jieli's voice was low and cold. "You are a tribal leader, how can you not know whether heavenly gods exist? Why spread superstitious nonsense here? If you disturb what little morale we have left, no number of deaths could redeem you." "Yes, Great Khan, you are right. I won't dare speak recklessly again." Jieli took a deep breath and sighed. "Those so-called gods of the grasslands, of the plateau, the wolf god, the moon god, are they not inventions of our Turkic ancestors, meant to give the herdsmen something to believe in? These gods never existed. But once enough people believe, over time they accept it as truth. Our ancestors did not make up these gods out of ignorance, but to give the people faith, making them easier to govern." The surrounding tribal leaders fell silent. Jieli looked around and said, "There's no time to waste, prepare the troops. Tuli, take 30,000 elites and set an ambush behind the ridge on the left. I'll lead the rest to wait in formation in the latter half of Haishiku. Once the Tang pursuers enter, we'll attack from both sides and trap them here. Z16, take 300 cavalry to patrol around Haishiku, and send scouts to keep strict watch on the Tang's movements. Report any sign of trouble to me or to Tuli at once." "Yes. You men, with me." Z16 chose some men and struggled up a nearby ridge. The ridge was pitch black, covered in loose stones, extremely hard to climb. It took them half an hour to cross it. Z16 looked around and found a high point. He told one of his men, "Take a few people to the entrance of Haishiku and check on the Tang army, report immediately. You others, climb that tallest ridge. From up there, you should be able to see the whole pass." The two groups set off to carry out his orders. Meanwhile, Jieli led about 70,000 men toward the exit of Haishiku. Tuli, with 30,000, was slowly making his way over the mountains. Soon, the team Z16 sent to the entrance returned. Their leader looked puzzled. "Commander, the 30,000 Tang troops chasing us didn't follow us into Haishiku. They're all outside the entrance, less than 2 li from Haishi Mountain." Z16 frowned. "Strange, why wouldn't the Tang pursuers enter the pass?" After a moment, he said, "You, and you, go report this to the 2 khans." The 2 riders galloped off toward each khan. The group sent to the high ridge had also reached the top. One man looked around and froze when his gaze landed on the exit of Haishiku. His whole body shivered and his face turned pale. "There's an ambush! There's an ambush!" He had seen at least 60,000 Tang soldiers at the exit, packed in a dense, black mass, forming a square formation and slowly advancing. "Commander, there's an ambush at the exit, at least 60,000 Tang troops." Z16's composure broke. He quickly said to the men beside him, "Go at once and tell Great Khan Jieli and Great Khan Tuli that there's a large Tang ambush at the exit, at least 60,000 men." The frightened cavalry spurred their horses recklessly. One horse screamed as it slipped, sending both man and animal tumbling down the ridge. Z16 cursed, "Pig! Are you a pig?" But there was nothing he could do. The ground was covered in loose black rocks, hard even for men to walk on, let alone horses. On the road below, the terrain was much flatter. Without needing Z16's messengers, Jieli's 70,000 men had already reached the exit. When they saw the black mass of Tang soldiers ahead, Jieli was stunned. "Great Khan, an ambush," a tribal leader shouted in panic. Those who heard him felt their hearts tighten. Just then, the messenger finally arrived, blurting out, "Great Khan, bad news. There's a large Tang ambush at the exit, at least 60,000 men." Jieli lashed him with his whip and roared, "Are you blind? I already saw them. If you'd been a moment later, our army would already be fighting them." A tribal leader asked nervously, "Great Khan, what should we do? Charge through or retreat?" Jieli studied the Tang troops ahead. Strangely, they had no horses. They stood in a square formation. At the front, soldiers held huge shields. Behind them, others held steel spears more than 10 feet long. They were advancing step by step, each step perfectly in unison. Each step made a deafening boom, like a funeral bell striking in the hearts of the Turkic soldiers. Seeing this formation, Jieli drew in a sharp breath, a wave of unease rising within him. Retreat, pass the order. The rear will lead the way back. We'll link up with Tuli's 30,000 as quickly as possible. The order spread, and the cavalry at the rear began to turn back. Tuli's troops had just finished crossing the ridge when they saw Jelly returning the way he came, their faces filled with confusion. Tuli rode down slowly and asked, puzzled, Great Khan, what's going on? Weren't you setting an ambush at the exit? Why are you back? Jelly's face was grim. The exit is blocked. There are 60,000 Tang infantry in formation there. Tuli's mouth twitched. Everything he had planned, Tang commanders had already anticipated. Tuli thought for a moment and said, Great Khan, the Tang infantry is relatively weak in battle. Just 50,000 of them, you can lead 70,000 cavalry and crush them at Haishiku. Jelly said worriedly, Tuli, you don't understand. The 50,000 Tang infantry are in a square formation that looks very powerful. Considering the heavy losses we've already suffered, I don't dare act rashly, so I came back to discuss a plan with you. Tuli frowned. A square formation? Yes. They look very disciplined, and the whole army's posture is strict. Tuli glanced at the ridge behind them and said, Great Khan, why don't we cross a few ridges here and take a detour? What do you think? Jelly thought for a moment, then frowned and shook his head. No, that won't work. The Tang occupy the flattest terrain outside Haishiku. By the time we cross several ridges and our horses are exhausted, they'll be waiting outside to trap us. We'll be like fish on the chopping block, ready to be cut. Also, once we cross these ridges, we'll have no retreat. Our food was all taken along the way and can only sustain the army for half a month. If the Tang form an encirclement, our huge force could starve to death in Haishiku. Tuli's expression changed slightly, and he gritted his teeth. Great Khan, the Tang only have 50,000 infantry, and we still have 120,000 cavalry. We may be hungry now, but we still have our fighting strength. Why not gather all our forces and charge them directly? Jelly hesitated. Tuli continued, we don't have much time to think. We've already lost 80,000 troops, losing another 30 or 50,000 doesn't matter. The Tang have a saying, as long as the green hills remain, there's no fear of running out of firewood. As long as we bring tens of thousands of warriors safely back to Turkic lands, in 3 to 5 years, after absorbing other small tribes, we can have another 200,000 strong army. Jelly thought for a moment, then hardened his expression and nodded. Right now, that's our only choice. But I think the formation at Haishiku's exit is strong, we shouldn't rush it. At the entrance, there are only 30,000 Tang cavalry. Their defense is weaker. We can send one force to hold them while the main army withdraws, maybe even surround and destroy those 30,000. What do you think? Tuli's face eased, and he agreed. The Great Khan is right. I'll go gather the troops at once. Tuli sent men to order the 50,000 troops who had climbed the ridge to return. When the tribal leaders heard they had to go back the way they came, they were furious. They had just struggled to get up here, and now they had to climb back down. But orders were orders, so they obeyed. At that moment, Zhishisili returned, pale-faced, and went to Jelly and Tuli. His voice trembled, Two Great Khans, I have bad news, we're surrounded. Jelly frowned. We were already surrounded, 5,000 Tang infantry in formation at the exit, 30,000 Tang cavalry at the entrance. Didn't you send men to tell us that? Zhishisili gave a bitter smile. Great Khan, the entrance doesn't have 30,000 Tang cavalry, it has 50,000 infantry in formation. There are 2 Tang formations, 50,000 infantry at both the entrance and the exit. They're moving in to attack us from both sides. In at most the time it takes to burn 2 sticks of incense, we'll be trapped here. Jelly's eyes widened in shock. What? Another 50,000 Tang infantry? Didn't the scouts say the Tang only had 50 or 60,000 troops? Where did another 100,000 come from? Zhishisili shook his head, he didn't know. Tuli asked urgently, and the 30,000 Tang cavalry? Zhishisili said bitterly, they haven't entered Haishiku. They're stationed about 5 li outside, probably to make sure none of us escape. I understand now, Tuli said, his face pale. They planned this from the start, first bleeding us at the Wei River, then driving us into Haishiku, where they already had 100,000 infantry waiting. I think their formations are designed specifically to fight cavalry. Zhishisili said weakly, but we entered Haishiku on our own. The 2 Khans stared at him coldly, as if to say, if you know how to talk, say less. Zhishisili shrank his neck and quickly added, what matters now is figuring out how to respond. Jelly clenched his fists and struck his thigh, gritting his teeth. Li Shimin, no wonder you dared to hold my daughter hostage. You already had this plan ready, waiting for us to walk right into it. Damn you, Li Shimin. Tuli urged, Great Khan, this isn't the time to complain, we must come up with a plan quickly. Break through. Jieli shouted. Gather all the troops, form up, and attack the Tang formation at Haishiku's exit. Tuli and z16 both nodded. After all, the entrance didn't just have 50,000 infantry, it also had 30,000 Tang cavalry, elite troops with the best Tang armor and sabers. Their combat power was strong, as shown in past clashes. Jieli regretted everything. If he'd known the Tang had this many troops, he'd never have dared to invade. The 200,000 strong force had taken years to build by uniting big and small tribes. If it was almost wiped out here, not only would he face trouble back home, but rebuilding would take 3 to 5 years. By then, his daughter might have already given him several grandchildren. At the Tang formation at Haishiku's exit, a cavalryman rode up to report. Grand Commander, the 120,000 Turkic troops are preparing to attack. They'll be at the front in less than half the time it takes to burn one stick of incense. Li Jing's eyes lit up and he shouted, all units, stand ready. Prepare to kill the enemy. The Macedonian-style phalanx was already deployed, nearly sealing the valley entrance completely. Before long, the thunder of hooves came from the distance. Far off, countless Turkic soldiers, waving scimitars, charged toward the formation with loud shouts. Li Jing, with his personal guards, rode to a halfway point up the ridge, personally raised his flag, and began to direct the battle. Large shields were lifted high, and steel spears over 10 feet long thrust out through the gaps between them. Jieli and Tuli each climbed onto 2 pitch-black ridges at the exit of Haishiku, one on the left and one on the right, directing their armies to charge into the Tang infantry formation. They watched nervously as the two forces clashed, expecting the brave Turkic warriors to smash through the Tang formation like a hot knife through butter, grinding them into meat paste. But the moment the two armies collided, their expectations vanished completely. This was because the greatest advantage of cavalry lay in using their speed to charge, fast and swift like thunder. However, only the few thousand warriors at the very front of the Turkic cavalry made contact with the Tang formation. The riders behind had no room to fight at all. They were packed together in a crush of bodies, unable to move an inch. Only the first wave of cavalry took the blows, while those behind could do nothing but watch anxiously, utterly useless. Jieli and Tuli observed the situation on the battlefield, and their hearts sank instantly. They gradually realized the strength of the Tang formation. The cavalry at the front could not break through the first row of Tang shield bearers. In an instant, thousands were skewered like hedgehogs by the spearmen standing behind the shields. Watching their soldiers fall one after another into pools of blood, Jieli and Tuli felt as if their hearts were bleeding. By the time the bodies of the Turkic soldiers in front piled into a mountain, a large gap had formed between the two armies. Fortunately, the killing stopped, and Jieli let out a sigh of relief. But before he could fully relax, he was stunned to see the Tang shield bearers at the front raise their shields, climb over the piles of Turkic corpses, and enter the open space between the two forces, quickly forming a horizontal shield wall again. The spearmen behind them swiftly followed, reforming the formation and advancing forward once more. Further back came a unit of archers, and behind the archers were infantrymen who, though not fighting, were methodically clearing away the bodies of the Turkic warriors. In this way, the Tang formation could advance unhindered. Hiss! Jieli gasped and said in a trembling voice, "What an impressive formation! Ch16, go and pull Tuli Khan from the front lines and bring him here quickly, I need to discuss a plan with him." Without a word, Ch16 rushed across to the other ridge. Meanwhile, the Macedonian phalanx did not idle but advanced little by little, slowly eating away at the Turkic army. Before long, Tuli arrived. Jieli hurried to meet him and said, "Tuli, our cavalry can't play to its strengths. This Tang formation is too powerful, especially in such narrow space. The situation is extremely unfavorable for us. Quickly think of a way to break through the formation, dragging this out will only make things worse for us." Tuli was so angry he wanted to curse. Why is it always me who has to think of a plan? Though fuming inside, Tuli still racked his brain for a solution. Jieli urged, "Hurry. If the Tang army advances at this pace, in less than an hour their formations at the entrance and exit will close in on us from both sides, surrounding us completely. Then we'll face total annihilation." Suddenly, Tuli's eyes lit up. "I've got it. We still have more than 110,000 troops. We leave 50,000 cavalry to keep charging the formation, then pick out 60,000 cavalry, split into two forces, and cut into the Tang formation from the ridges on the left and right. This way, the formation can be broken." Jieli raised his eyebrows and slapped his thigh in excitement. "Let's do it! As expected of Tuli Khan, so clever. You pick 60,000 soldiers now. You take 30,000 to cut in from the left, I'll take 30,000 from the right." Tuli rolled his eyes and quickly went to the rear to find several tribal chiefs. He didn't need to select men himself, Just informing the tribal chiefs was enough, and they would lead their own units off the battlefield. In truth, these chiefs were like Tang generals. In the distance, Duan Zhixuan saw the Turkic army splitting into two groups, each climbing the ridges on the left and right. His face changed. "This is bad, Grand Marshal, they're going to cut into our formation from both flanks. Once the cavalry breaks in, it will be a one-sided massacre. What should we do?" Li Jing glanced at the increasingly nervous Duan Zhixuan, then suddenly smiled faintly. "They won't get into the formation. You'll see soon enough." Seeing Li Jing so confident, Duan Zhixuan said nothing more and simply waited quietly for his move. Li Jing suddenly asked, "Zhixuan, do you know the difference between the Turkic and Tang command systems?" Duan Zhixuan was startled and shook his head. Li Jing explained, "Tang generals lead from the front, personally fighting alongside their soldiers. This not only boosts morale but also makes the soldiers feel close to their commanders. When the time comes to fight, they give their all. Such an army is invincible on the battlefield. But the Turks are different. Their commanders are the chiefs of each small tribe. These chiefs live in comfort within their tribes, enjoying privilege like petty kings. To preserve their noble status, they never fight alongside their soldiers, they direct from the rear while sending their men to charge. This makes Turkic soldiers' morale easy to break, and their spirit easy to weaken. Such an army is no real threat. This is why foreign tribes have invaded our land many times but have never been able to hold it." Duan Zhixuan nodded. "I understand. But Grand Marshal, why don't you personally lead the charge?" Li Jing glared in displeasure. "I am the commander-in-chief. My job is to lead generals like you. I don't command troops, I command the generals who command the troops." Duan Zhixuan urged, "Understood, Grand Marshal. But look, the Turks are already on both ridges, about to cut into our formation." Li Jing calmly raised his banner. The bugler beside him took out a horn and blew a deep woo that echoed throughout Haishiku. Hearing it, all the soldiers turned to look at Li Jing. He waved his banner in several quick motions. Duan Zhixuan was shocked to see the phalanx below rapidly change shape. The infantry on both flanks raised their shields, the spearmen behind leveled their spears, mirroring the front line's posture. "So that's it. No wonder the Grand Marshal was so calm, our formation can change shape at any moment. Now it's unbreakable." Duan Zhixuan exclaimed. Xieli and Tuli, about to lead 60,000 cavalry in a flank attack, were dumbfounded at the sight. "There's a maneuver like this too?" The Macedonian phalanx had completely overturned Xieli and Tuli's understanding of battle formations. Li Jing once again changed the position of his banner, and the rear also raised their shields, preventing the enemy from cutting in from behind. In this way, shield bearers and spearmen were positioned in all four directions, forming an ironclad block. The sound of the horn rang out, it was the charge signal. The formation below, upon hearing the horn, quickened its pace, its speed increasing several times. The sound of dense footsteps rose from below, neat and uniform, each step resounding like thunder. Xieli and Tuli were instantly filled with fear, and even the Turkic soldiers gradually showed looks of despair. At this time, ch16 rode up the ridge. Seeing Xieli, his voice trembled as he said, "Great Khan, it's bad, the other formation is also advancing quickly. In at most the time of one incense stick, they will surround the soldiers below in the valley." "What? So fast?" Xieli's expression changed, and he said to ch16, "Immediately lead the soldiers below up the ridge. You don't need to join me, take the remnants and head toward that side to break through, but no matter what, bring the men out of Haishiku. Remember, if you meet Tang troops, don't linger in battle. If you can leave Haishiku, head to Linzhou as fast as possible. We will split into 3 routes and meet in Linzhou." ch16 now had no desire to fight, only wanting to escape this dangerous situation as soon as possible. Without a word, he set out immediately. Xieli also sent someone to inform Tuli. After receiving the order, Tuli likewise said nothing and began leading 30,000 men across mountains and ridges. Seeing that Tuli's force was already moving in the opposite direction, Xieli no longer hesitated and also advanced in the opposite direction. But this meant that the 50,000 Turkic troops below were in trouble. Because their numbers were too great, and the ridges on both sides were steep, for all the soldiers to climb up would take at least half an hour. Seeing this situation, Li Jing frowned and immediately said to Duan Zhixuan, "Send someone to inform the deputy commander at the entrance of Haishiku of the Turkic armies splitting into 3 routes to escape. Let him choose a place to station troops to block Xieli's escape." After Duan Zhixuan left, Li Jing again had the bugler blow the horn. The advancing speed of the formation below increased again, reaching its maximum. Very soon, the formation crashed into the Turkic troops who were trying to squeeze onto the ridge but could not, and began a frenzied slaughter. In no time, the formation of 50,000 infantry at the entrance to Haishiku also entered the battle, creating a pincer attack with the other formation, mercilessly cutting down the Turkic barbarians' lives. This slaughter lasted for half an hour. Inside Haishiku, blood flowed like a river, and corpses piled like mountains. By conservative estimates, no fewer than 30,000 Turkic soldiers were killed here alone. ч16 stood on the ridge, his face ashen at the carnage below. Looking at the soldiers who had climbed the ridge, only a little over 20,000 remained. The other 30,000 warriors had all perished in Haishiku. "Commander, which direction do we go?" a tribal chief asked with a heavy expression. ч16 looked toward the directions of the two Khans' advances, then pointed toward Xieli's forces and said, "Follow the Great Khan first. After crossing two ridges, we will turn and leave Haishiku on a straight path." The tribal chief's face changed, and he exclaimed, "A straight path? Commander, are you mad? If we take a straight path, we will inevitably face the Tang army head-on. Then we will be wiped out." ч16 said impatiently, "What do you know? The Tang army has only 30,000 cavalry. Their generals surely know who is important and who is not. If they want to pursue, of course they will choose one of the two Khans. I'm just a commander. Between heavy and light, the Tang generals know the difference." And also what?" the tribal chief asked. Hearing ч16 say this, he could not help but feel some hope. He also thought ч16's analysis was right. If the Tang army were to pursue, it would certainly be after one of the two Khans, not small fry like them. And also, ч16 said in a low voice, "If we meet the Tang elite cavalry head-on, resistance would be useless. We might as well surrender to the Tang army directly." The tribal chief's face changed. "You want to betray the nation and surrender?" ч16 grabbed his collar, glanced cautiously around, and said in a low voice, "Keep your voice down, afraid others won't hear you? Just tell me, do you want to live or be slaughtered by the Tang?" Of course I want to live." "Then do as I say. We will act according to the situation. Quickly lead your warriors to set out, try to leave Haishiku before dark. The longer we delay, the more dangerous it becomes." ч16 led the remnants forward. Duan Zhixuan also returned to Haishiku, with two others behind him, Zhang Liang and Hou Junji. Li Jing looked at them, frowned, and asked, "Why are you here?" Hou Junji cupped his hands and said, "The deputy commander sent us. He said that under the Grand Marshal's command, only Duan Zhixuan is available as a general. Since the Turkic forces split into 3 routes, the 100,000 reinforcements will also split into 3 routes. But with only 2 generals, you cannot split into 3 forces. So the deputy commander sent us to take troops and await your orders." Li Jing nodded approvingly. Marshal Qingxiu still has some military talent. He thought the same as I did. "When do we set out? We can't let Xieli and Tuli escape. If they return to the Turks, in less than 5 years they'll gather another cavalry force to harass our borders," Zhang Liang said. Li Jing did not answer, but gave a few instructions to the bugler. When the bugler blew the horn, the 100,000 reinforcements below all adjusted their direction and began crossing the ridges. Hou Junji was puzzled. "Grand Marshal, this is?" Li Jing explained, "The horses were hidden, they are going to mount them. They'll be back soon." Hou Junji suddenly understood. Sure enough, in less than half an hour, the 100,000 reinforcements who had been in infantry formation transformed into 100,000 cavalry, each armored and armed. Inside Haishiku, a killing aura filled the air. Standing high up, Li Jing drew his Tang saber and said in a loud voice, "Brothers, the time has come to test the results of your 100 days of training. This battle is to eliminate the Turks once and for all. Do not disappoint me. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd regiments, step forward. Under Duan Zhixuan's command, guard the northeastern perimeter outside Haishiku. 4th to 6th regiments, step forward. Under Hou Junji's command, guard the northwestern perimeter outside Haishiku. 7th to 9th regiments, step forward. Under Zhang Liang's command, guard the eastern perimeter outside Haishiku. 10th regiment, follow me." This advanced army organization was, of course, provided to Li Jing by Qingxiu, and Li Jing had already implemented it during training. After dividing into 4 forces, the army set out. In less than half an hour, they had sealed Haishiku so tightly that not even water could pass through. Haishiku was made up of more than 20 small ridges. The many ridges were arranged together, forming a square shape, about 15 li across and about 15 li in length. Because this was a coal mining area, the water sources were polluted, and for dozens of li around it was a desolate, uninhabited place. Xieli led 30,000 Turkic cavalry over the last ridge. By then, men and horses were already exhausted, and the soldiers were utterly weary. "Damn it, finally we're out," Standing at the very top of the ridge, Xieli muttered a complaint, then looked around to scout the enemy situation. When he saw a mass of elite Tang cavalry in the northeast direction, Xieli couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, his face turning black as the bottom of a pot. He immediately flew into a rage. This is outrageous, completely outrageous. Damn it, just how many troops do the Tang have? Are Turkic scouts all useless drunks? Didn't they say the Tang only had a pitiful 60,000 cavalry? Why is there still a Tang army stationed in the northeast? By conservative estimate, this Tang cavalry unit had at least 30,000 men. A tribal chief, with a bitter expression, pointed toward the northwest and said, "Great Khan, there is another Tang force there, less than 5 li away from us." Xieli's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly looked in the direction the chief pointed, feeling his scalp tingle. At the spot the chief pointed to, there was indeed another Tang army, also at least 30,000 strong. The tribal chief said with a bitter smile, "Great Khan, I'm afraid we have already been surrounded by the Tang army." Xieli looked up and wailed, "Heavens! Where on earth did all these Tang soldiers come from?" The tribal chief guessed, "Great Khan, it's impossible for the Tang to have so many troops stationed outside Haishiku. I think there's only one possibility. These Tang soldiers who formed battle formations in Haishiku were originally cavalry, not infantry." Xieli froze for a moment and shook his head. "Impossible, absolutely impossible." The tribal chief said, "Khan, it's possible, completely possible." "How so?" Xieli asked. The chief explained, "The Tang formations in the passage of Haishiku were on flat, easy-to-travel roads. I guess they were originally cavalry, not infantry. They probably left their horses somewhere hidden behind an inconspicuous ridge in Haishiku. When they saw us split into 3 groups, these Tang infantry also split into several forces to lie in wait outside. Great Khan, without a doubt, we are already surrounded by the Tang inside Haishiku. Look, the positions of these 2 forces, one in the northeast, the other in the northwest. I suspect there are also 2 Tang forces in the southeast and southwest. They mean to trap us entirely in Haishiku." Xieli gasped sharply and, not caring about the black stones beneath him, plopped down on the ground, nearly in tears. The tribal chief said bitterly, "If we recklessly leave this ridge, we will surely be attacked from both northeast and northwest by Tang forces. The chance of escaping Haishiku is very small." Despair appeared on Xieli's face. Gurgle, gurgle. The sound of his stomach rumbling brought him back to his senses, and he ordered, "No matter what, fill your stomachs first. Pass the word, set up the pots and cook. Let the brothers have a full meal." Soon, fires for cooking were lit below the ridge. Fortunately, there was no wind here inside the ridge. If there were, it might ignite the ridge itself, and the entire Haishiku would become a sea of fire. Then the Tang wouldn't even need to surround them. The Turkic army would be burned alive here. On the other side, Tuli faced exactly the same situation as Xieli. In both the southeast and southwest directions, there were Tang forces stationed, totaling 50 to 60,000 men. He even discovered a cavalry unit of 10,000 men patrolling around Haishiku. Tuli was hopeless. Turning his grief into hunger, he also gave the order to set up pots and cook. While they were cooking, the Tang army was also cooking. Qingxiu, while eating, instructed Cheng Yaojin, "Uncle Cheng, after the meal, please take some men back to the Wei River camp and bring back more grenades." Cheng Yaojin's eyes lit up. "You're planning to throw grenades into Haishiku?" Qingxiu smiled and nodded. "Our 4 formations control the 4 directions. As long as the Turks dare to leave Haishiku, our troops can respond to each other from a distance. I think they won't dare to come out rashly. They'll likely stay curled up inside, waiting for an opportunity. Since they won't come out, we'll blow them all out." "Haha." Cheng Yaojin laughed. "I was thinking the same thing." Qingxiu continued, "General Yuqi, after the meal, lead a group of scouts to investigate the enemy situation. Once we know the movements of the Turkic army, it'll be easier to catch them like turtles in a jar." Yuqi Gong also nodded in agreement. After the meal, Cheng Yaojin and Yuqi Gong both left. Inside the tent, Qingxiu took a drag on a cigarette, and Ling Yingqi, dressed in full armor, was there. He crooked his finger at her and said, "Come over and massage my shoulders." Ling Yingqi didn't move, but held up one finger and said, "I'll massage, but you have to reduce my debt by 10 fairy beans." "No problem." Qingxiu readily agreed. After all, that debt of fairy beans was an invented charge, might as well take the bargain when it's offered. Ling Yingqi felt much better at that, walked over, knelt behind Qingxiu, and began to massage and pound his back. And indeed, because Ling Yingqi had practiced martial arts for many years, she had considerable strength in her hands, and the massage was quite comfortable. After about the time of 1 incense stick, the sound of concentrated hoofbeats came from outside. A soldier entered and cupped his hands. Deputy Commander, the Grand Marshal has arrived with 10,000 troops. Ling Yingqi's face instantly showed panic. Seeing her reaction from an omniscient perspective, Qingxiu told the soldier to leave the tent. Ling Yingqi then said nervously, "My father's here, what do we do? Quick, think of something." She looked around. There was only one tent and a bedroll, nowhere to hide a person. Before Qingxiu could think, footsteps and Ling Jing's voice came from outside. Deputy Commander really knows how to enjoy himself. We're only camped here temporarily, no need to set up a tent, is there? It's not like we're stationed here permanently. Ling Yingqi's face turned pale as snow. If her father found her in the tent, and knew she had lost her chastity, would he string her up and beat her? In her panic, Qingxiu lifted the quilt and said quietly, "Get in, lie down." Ling Yingqi didn't even think, she immediately dove under the quilt and lay down. Just as Qingxiu covered her up, Ling Jing stepped inside. Qingxiu stretched and yawned. "This marquis has a habit of napping, resting after a meal helps keep up my energy." Ling Jing gave a knowing glance at the bulging quilt and sneered, "Bringing a bed-warming maid to war, if you're not tired, who would be? Marquis Qing, a home has its rules, and an army has its regulations. Women are not allowed in camp. Send your bed-warmer back immediately. If something happens on the battlefield, a woman will only slow your blade." Qingxiu nodded, "The Grand Marshal is right. I'll send her back to Chang'an shortly." Suddenly, Ling Jing frowned, sniffed the air carefully, and muttered, "Strange, why does this scent smell so familiar?" "The scent seems familiar?" When Li Yingqi heard this, she felt as if her heart was about to jump out of her chest. Qingxiu stood up, leaned toward Li Jing, and said with an ambiguous look, "The Grand Marshal's nose is so sharp that even a young woman's body fragrance can be detected. Your home is located in Pingkong Ward, surrounded by places of pleasure. Surely you've visited there often, haven't you?" Although Qingxiu appeared calm on the surface, inside he was panicking badly. If Li Jing lifted the quilt and saw that the bedwarmer was his own daughter, he might fight to the death with him. However, he had seized on Li Jing's weakness of being a man who valued his upright reputation. Li Jing's old face flushed red at these words, and with an angry expression he said, "Marquis Qing, do not insult me. I have lived my life upright and aboveboard, a man of integrity. How could I linger in places of pleasure?" Qingxiu showed a skeptical expression. "Humph. Insolent brat. You anger me to death." Li Jing gave a cold snort, flung his sleeves, and left. Seeing Li Jing leave, Qingxiu let out a sigh of relief, but then quickly followed after him. "Grand Marshal, why take offense? I was only joking with you." Li Jing said coldly, "The battle is urgent. I hope Marquis Qing will refrain from such jokes." Qingxiu nodded and smiled, "The Grand Marshal is absolutely right. I only meant to lighten the tension on the battlefield with some humor." Hearing this, Li Jing's expression softened a lot, though he still asked curiously, "Although this is your first time on the battlefield, I have not seen you show any nervousness or pressure at all." "None? I didn't sleep a wink last night, haha." "Yes, last night you kept Li Yingqi up until the middle of the night before sleeping. Being able to sleep well would indeed be strange." Li Jing raised his hand and said, "Back to the urgent matter, where are Chang Yaojin and Yu Qijingde?" Qingxiu explained. Li Jing immediately nodded with a smile, "This is a good method. Using grenades to kill the enemy not only strikes fear into them, but also reduces our casualties." "Very well, since you've already made the arrangements, I can be at ease. I will continue circling around Haishiku." Li Jing waved his hand, mounted his horse, and left with 10,000 new troops. Qingxiu returned to the tent, lifted the quilt, and said, "Come out, your father's gone." Li Yingqi let out a long breath, patting her heaving chest, "Finally. That scared me to death. Luckily you were here, otherwise, I really wouldn't have known what to do." Qingxiu grinned, "So, I've helped you so much, how will you thank me?" Li Yingqi asked in return, "How do you want me to thank you?" "That's simple, just perform well tonight." Li Yingqi's face flushed red, and she instinctively lowered her head in silence, as if she had already accepted her fate. After leading the army 5 or 6 li away, Li Jing suddenly pulled his reins tight, his expression turning strange. His brows furrowed. "Wait, in broad daylight, why was that maid wrapped in a quilt? And after talking for so long, she never showed her face? This is suspicious." Suddenly, Li Jing's body trembled, and he jerked his head up, eyes wide. "Yingqi? That was Yingqi's scent?" He finally remembered, the fragrance he had smelled just now was the unique scent belonging to his daughter. Li Jing had another name, Li the Apothecary. He was called the Apothecary not only because he was skilled in war, but also because his medical skills were quite good, especially his expertise in blending various medicines. The scented sachet on Li Yingqi's body was personally blended by him, and he could say with certainty that in the entire Tang Empire, this fragrance was unique. Li Jing's eyes widened, his gaze gradually turning blood-red, and he roared angrily, "Damn you, Marquis Zhenghua, you've gone too far. I'm done playing with you." The new troops behind him looked at one another, not understanding why Li Jing was exploding in anger at such a critical moment. Li Jing turned his horse around and said in a deep voice, "Go back, we're heading to Marquis Zhenghua's formation." But the next moment, a scout came galloping wildly, his voice arriving before he did. "Report, Grand Marshal, ch16 is leading 50,000 Turkic troops toward the exit of Haigu Pass. It looks like he's trying to break out." Li Jing's expression changed. He struck his thigh with his fist in frustration and said through gritted teeth, "I'll settle accounts with you later, boy. For now, support is most important. Everyone, follow me to meet the enemy." With that, Li Jing led his army in a mad rush toward the exit of Haishiku. When he reached the exit, sure enough, he saw ch16 leading 50,000 Turkic troops hesitating there. The 60,000 new troops stationed in the northeast and northwest were also converging toward this spot. Soon, the 60,000 joined with Li Jing's force. "Grand Marshal, it seems ch16 is going to attempt a breakout," Hou Junji stepped forward and said. Zhang Liang also drew his war blade and asked, "Shall we have the entire army attack and drive ch16's force back into Haishiku?" Li Jing did not give the order right away. He observed for a moment and saw that within the Turkic force of 50,000, one lone rider was galloping toward them. Li Jing frowned. "A single rider? Is he coming to negotiate?" Zhang Liang sneered, "At a time like this, when they're already at the end of the road, he still dares to negotiate?" Hou Junji tilted his head and said, "What if he's here to surrender? I've heard that this ch16 isn't very brave. Though his status among the Turks is high, it's said he gained it by flattering others. With his cowardly nature, he should be able to see the situation clearly. There's a real chance he's here to surrender." Li Jing nodded. "Then let's wait and see." Before long, the Turkic rider arrived in front of the Tang formation. Indeed, this person was none other than the Turkic great commander, ch16. ch16 dismounted, dropped to one knee, placed one hand on his chest, and said, "Turkic commander ch16 greets the honorable Tang generals." Leaning forward, Li Jing rested on his horse's neck and asked, "Speak, what is your purpose here?" ch16 lifted his head with a fawning smile and said, "The Turkic army is trapped in Haishiku, the situation is critical. Xieli and Tuli are already doomed. I, ch16, am willing to lead 50,000 Turkic troops to surrender to the Tang, and I beg the generals to show mercy and spare us." Hou Junji's eyes widened. "Well, he really is here to surrender." Li Jing nodded. "I accept your surrender. Now, go back and have your men dismount at once, abandon their horses and weapons, and walk over with their hands raised. The Tang do not kill surrendered soldiers, on this, you can rest assured." ch16 bowed his head to the ground. "Thank you, great general, for your mercy." After riding back and giving the order, the 50,000 troops began dismounting one after another, discarding their weapons, and walking over with their hands raised, a truly spectacular sight. Once everyone was in place, Li Jing ordered, "Bind them all. I will lead 10,000 men to guard the prisoners. Hou Junji, Zhang Liang, you two quickly take the entire army to take possession of those warhorses." In about the time of 2 incense sticks, the 50,000 Turkic troops had their hands tied behind their backs by the Tang army, while Hou Junji and Zhang Liang received the horses. Thus, the surrender was successfully accepted. Looking at ch16 before him, Li Jing asked, "Did Xieli and Tuli know that you have surrendered to the Tang?" ch16 shook his head. Li Jing, Hou Junji, and Zhang Liang exchanged strange looks. What kind of expression would Xieli have upon learning that all 50,000 of his troops had surrendered? Tuli and Xieli faced the same predicament. After eating and drinking their fill, they led 30,000 men, crossed more than 10 ridges, and joined up with Xieli. When Xieli saw Tuli coming, he got up and walked over, asking bitterly, "Tuli, have you also been surrounded by the Tang army?" Tuli gave a wry smile and nodded. "Great Khan, we must think of a way. There are 2 Tang forces in the southeast and southwest directions, together numbering 60,000. I suppose the northeast and northwest directions also have large Tang forces stationed, right?" Xieli nodded. "That's right. The Tang army's current strength, just what's visible, is more than 100,000, even 1 or 2 10,000s more than we have now. If we keep hiding in Haishiku, our grain and fodder will soon be completely used up." Tuli sighed. "Great Khan, we are already at the end of the road. Why not summon back the 50,000 men led by ch16, gather all our forces, and break out? At least this way, we can preserve part of our strength and not be completely trapped to death here." Xieli said with difficulty, I think the same. I have already sent scouts to find Ch16's men, and news should arrive soon. If we gather all our strength, perhaps we can still fight it out. At that moment, a Turkic cavalryman who was keeping watch came down from the ridge and said, Great Khan, Little Khan, about 300 Tang cavalry are on their way here. I guess they're coming to persuade us to surrender. Surrender? Xieli's face sank, looking very unpleasant. Tuli asked doubtfully, if they want to persuade us to surrender, sending one man to deliver the message would be enough. Why bring 300? Xieli's eyes moved, and he said disdainfully, perhaps the leader is a Tang general afraid of death, so he's bringing so many to show off his strength. You, go tell this Tang general that Turkic warriors never surrender. If it's war he wants, then war it will be. Yes. The watchman returned to the outermost ridge. By now, the 300 Tang soldiers had reached the foot of the ridge and were spreading out, heading up. The Turkic watchman shouted, Tang soldiers below, if you're here to persuade us to surrender, then get lost. We Turkic warriors will never surrender to the Tang. Among the Turks, there are only warriors who die in battle, no cowardly weaklings who surrender. After speaking, several of the watchmen wore proud and self-satisfied expressions. See, we truly have backbone. Qingxiu said to Cheng Yaojin and Yu Qigong beside him, you two, shoot them all. Without a word, Cheng Yaojin and Yu Qigong drew their bows, and several arrows whistled through the air. 2 Turkic soldiers on the ridge were shot dead on the spot. The remaining 4 or 5 had not yet reacted before a dozen veterans shot them into hedgehogs. Several bodies rolled down the ridge. When Xieli saw this, he frowned. What's going on? Why are they all rolling down? Could it be? His eyes widened, and he roared, the Tang army is attacking. Prepare for battle. Tuli's expression changed, his face full of doubt. This shouldn't be. This isn't even a place to fight, and the scouts just said the Tang have only 300 men. Surely they wouldn't be stupid enough to come here and fight us head-on. Hearing this, Xieli also looked puzzled. You, go up and scout. Everyone else, follow me up the mountain to see what the Tang are up to. The Tang army's actions truly baffled Xieli and Tuli, both wore confused expressions. But the next moment, they saw Tang soldiers already standing on the ridge's highest point, and behind each of these few soldiers was a large burlap sack, bulging with something unknown. When Xieli's gaze fell on one particular young man, his eyes widened in fury. So it's you, you little lamb. Qingxiu grinned, took the sack off his back, pulled out a black iron grenade, lit the fuse with a fire striker, and threw it straight toward Xieli's position. Xieli's whole body trembled, his mouth falling open as a wave of bad premonition surged in his heart. Although Qingxiu had promised Ashina Yu not to kill Xieli, no one could guarantee he wouldn't be blown up by a stray grenade. What is? Tuli tilted his head, seeing the black lump flying through the air, his face turned pale, and he shouted, it's the weapon of the gods, run. With that, he dove headfirst into the crowd. Xieli reacted quickly, bolting toward the left. The grenade landed right where Xieli had been standing. Boom! With an ear-splitting explosion, black coal flew everywhere. A crater 2 meters wide was left in the ground, and 3 or 4 nearby Turkic soldiers were blown off their feet. Even shards of coal pierced into several men's bodies, causing waves of terrible screams. After dodging the grenade, Xieli stumbled and fell. When he got back up, he was covered head to toe in black soot. He looked on in despair as 200 to 300 Tang soldiers simultaneously opened their sacks, lit the black lumps with fire strikers, and hurled them into the densest parts of the crowd. Then came an unending roar of explosions. Boom, 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 rumble. All through Haishiku, explosions and screams filled the air. The 60,000 Turkic troops scattered in panic, not even thinking about climbing the ridge to resist. They didn't even dare lift their heads, running blindly like headless flies. They had already had a psychological shadow from these grenades, and had thought they were only suitable for defensive battles. They hadn't imagined these little things could be carried and used as thrown weapons. Xieli, his face like ash, shouted, form up. Form up. Don't be afraid. Charge and kill them all. Seize the gods' weapons. But his voice was drowned out by the explosions, and instead of coming together, the Turkic army became even more chaotic. Those few who had managed to climb the opposite ridge were pale-faced and trembling in their legs. Ha 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 ha! Cheng Yaojin laughed as he hurled grenades down. Yu Qigong did the same. These 300 Tang soldiers were all hand-picked by Qingxiu, strong, veteran warriors, able to throw a nearly 1-gene grenade 70 to 80 meters, covering the whole battlefield with firepower. In less than half an incense stick's time, the Tang soldiers had thrown all the grenades they'd brought at the Turkic army. Qingxiu waved his hand, withdraw. That's it? Already? Cheng Yaojin looked at his empty sack with disappointment. Yu Qigong also complained, I didn't even get my fill of throwing, too few. Qingxiu said irritably, over 2,000 grenades, and you think that's few? Look at what the Turkic army has been turned into. The ravine was filled with the corpses of Turkic soldiers, if not 10,000, then at least 8,000. Too much, this is going too far. Xieli, his face covered in black soot and his eyes blood-red, looked up to the sky and roared in anger. Tuli urged, Great Khan, now is not the time for anger. We need to move further inside quickly. Otherwise, if the Tang army comes again to throw those things, all our men will be blown to pieces. Yes, yes, everyone follow me and move in. Soon, Xieli led his men 2 ridges farther in before finally feeling at ease. With a dark expression, he said, check our casualties from this attack. About half an hour later, Tuli, with a bitter face, said, just this one time alone killed over 9,000, and more than 5,000 others were wounded and have lost the ability to fight. Losing 15,000 troops in one blow left Xieli dizzy and lightheaded. Heavens, could it be the sky wishes to destroy my Turks? Xieli looked up and lamented, his eyes already filled with tears. Tuli consoled him, Great Khan, do not be too sad. ч16 still has 50,000 men. Once we join together with them, we'll have over 90,000, and then we can break out. Xieli snarled at a few Turkic soldiers, where is ч16? Where has that bastard run off to? Why hasn't he come to join us yet? Report, report. A Turkic soldier ran over, his face terrified, stammering, Great Khan, it's not good, ч16 has led 50,000 troops to surrender. Xieli's mouth fell open, and with a boom in his head, his vision went black. He sat heavily into a pile of gravel, the sharp coal stones cutting his backside and making it bleed, without him even noticing. What? What did you say? Tuli's eyes nearly popped out. He grabbed the soldier by the collar and roared, when did this happen? Why are you only reporting now? The soldier, trembling, explained, less than an hour ago, I was about to report when the Tang army came to throw black lumps. I was knocked unconscious by the blast. Damn you! Tuli kicked him over. He walked to Xieli, looking miserable. Great Khan, that bastard ч16 has surrendered to the Tang. Xieli came to his senses and roared, ч16, you treacherous dog. I will tear you to pieces. Tuli looked at the ragged remnants behind them and said weakly, from over 100,000 troops, in the end we have only this many left. 100,000 troops. It was a story of grief. Xieli suddenly broke into loud sobs. Tuli's eyes were also red, and he stood disheartened in the wind. After a long while, when Xieli had cried enough, Tuli said quietly, Great Khan, relying on our 40,000 men to break out is impossible. If we try, it will certainly mean total annihilation. Xieli asked, then what do you say we do now? Tuli gritted his teeth and cautiously said, where there's life, there's hope. At this moment, there are only 2 paths left. Xieli's spirit lifted slightly, and he asked in a deep voice, what 2 paths? Tuli leaned in close and whispered, first path, have several tribal chiefs lead a breakout, and in the chaos we slip out somewhere the Tang army won't notice. As long as we can safely return to the Turks, we will have the chance to rise again. Xieli asked, his expression complicated, and the second path? Tuli said darkly, surrender to the Tang. Xieli's face twisted in struggle as he fought within himself. Tuli reminded him, Great Khan, it's time to decide quickly. If the Tang army comes again to bombard us, we may not even have the chance to surrender. Xieli's body trembled, and he said bitterly, surrender. Good, I'll send scouts to the Tang camp immediately. Wait. Xieli grabbed Tuli, gritting his teeth, we can surrender, but ч16 must die. Tuli, you will go personally and tell the Tang general that I will surrender only after seeing ч16's head. Tuli hesitated for a moment, then nodded, all right, I'll go. Before long, Tuli rode over several ridges and arrived before the Tang camp. Facing the neat ranks of Tang soldiers, Tuli dismounted, placed one hand over his chest, and saluted, I am Tuli Khan of the Turks. I wish to see your leader. Qingxiu rode forward and said, that's me. Speak your piece. Although Tuli had seen Qingxiu near the Wei River before, he had not looked closely. Now, taking a good look, he was surprised at how young the man was. He said to Qingxiu, Khan Xieli has decided to surrender, but he will only do so after seeing ч16's head. Otherwise, the Great Khan will lead the Turkic remnants to break out and perish together with the Tang. Qingxiu raised an eyebrow and said to Chang Yaojin, General Chang, go to the Grand Marshal and have him cut off ч16's head and send it over. Chang Yaojin frowned, Deputy Commander, the Tang do not kill surrendered generals, don't you know this? Qingxiu sneered, killing one surrendered general to save tens of thousands of Tang soldiers' lives is worth it. I believe the Grand Marshal will gladly agree to this. Chang Yaojin thought for a moment, then nodded, mounted his horse, and went to find Ling Jing. If ç16 wasn't killed, Xieli might lead a breakout. In desperation, people could unleash terrifying strength. Even with superior numbers, the Tang army would take heavy losses fighting desperate Turks, at least several thousand to 10,000 casualties to wipe them out. About half an hour later, Chang Yaojin returned carrying a bloodied head, followed by Ling Jing and his 10,000 cavalry. Ling Jing's expression was dark, and when he looked at Qingxiu, there was a faint murderous intent in his eyes. Chang Yaojin tossed the head at Tuli's feet. ç16's head, take it to let Xieli enjoy the sight. Tuli examined it, confirmed it was ç16's head, picked it up, mounted his horse, and returned the way he came. After Tuli left, Ling Jing rode forward with a gloomy face and said in a deep voice, "Marquis Qing, come with me, I have something to ask you." Qingxiu's heart moved, and a bitter smile touched his lips. What must come will come. Ling Jing surely knew by now that he had been hiding his precious daughter, Ling Yingqi. Following Ling Jing several hundred paces away, Ling Jing suddenly turned, his voice angry. "Marquis Qing, you've gone too far. My daughter Yingqi, is she in your tent?" Qingxiu calmly nodded. "Yes, Ling Yingqi is in my tent." Ling Jing's face alternated between black and red, his voice trembling. What did you do to her?" Qingxiu scratched his head, looking a bit embarrassed. "Father-in-law, there's no need to be angry. It's normal for young men and women to have mutual affection. Yingqi and I truly love each other, and I hope to gain the Grand Marshal's support." Ling Jing was completely stunned. Good heavens, he's already calling me father-in-law? Qingxiu, this man, has nothing else in excess, except fathers-in-law. Of course, he did not mind having many fathers-in-law, the more the better, so that the Qing family could branch out and spread its leaves. Calling him father-in-law caught Ling Jing completely off guard. Ling Jing's expression changed, and he cried out, "Who is your father-in-law? Don't shout nonsense and ruin my daughter's reputation." At that moment, Qingxiu almost wanted to say, "Your daughter's reputation is already gone." Ling Jing snorted angrily. "I, Ling Jing, have only one daughter. In the future, I will find her a husband who is her equal in family status and pleasing to me. She will never be made anyone's concubine. You have no fate with her, so give up that idea." Qingxiu asked doubtfully, "Could it be that Duke Wei looks down on me? Am I not her equal in status?" Ling Jing frowned. "It's not that I look down on you. My meaning is clear, if my daughter is to marry, her husband must be devoted to her alone. Marquis Qing, you have a harem full of wives and concubines, so you are not within my scope for choosing a son-in-law." Hearing the other speak so plainly, Qingxiu could only nod helplessly. "Since Duke Wei is so firm, I can only give up." In that case, he would just regard last night's intense battle with Ling Yingqi until midnight as a beautiful encounter. Ling Jing never imagined that his daughter had already lost her chastity. In his subconscious, he believed that his daughter Ling Yingqi was not a casual person and could never roll in bed with someone she had only recently met, but he did not realize that when his daughter was casual, she wasn't human. Ling Jing glanced at the defeated and broken Turkic remnants coming out of Haishiku and said to Qingxiu, "Marquis Qing, I will only say this once, I hope you will not have further contact with my daughter." Certainly. Qingxiu nodded. "However, Duke Wei, let me say this in advance, I will never take the initiative to disturb your daughter. But if your daughter comes to disturb me, then what?" "Impossible." Ling Jing shook his head and pursed his lips. "Absolutely impossible. How could she take the initiative to bother you? But since you have this concern, I will warn her a few times when I get back. You don't need to trouble yourself over it, Marquis Qing." Qingxiu smiled. "And if the warning doesn't work, and you can't control her?" Ling Jing said with some displeasure, "She is my own daughter, I can certainly control her." "Better that way." Qingxiu grinned, said this, and then rode off toward the main force. Behind him, Ling Jing's expression was a little strange. Where does this boy's confidence come from? But Ling Jing did not think too much on it. "Whole army, stand ready." Xieli and Tuli led more than 40,000 battered remnants to the front of the Tang army. Xieli's expression was utterly dejected. He removed the golden blade from his waist, tossed it to the ground, glanced at Qingxiu, then said to Ling Jing, "I am Xieli Khan of the Turks. I have come today to surrender. I hope the Tang army will treat our Turkic warriors well." Ling Jing nodded. "Dismount and surrender." Xieli dismounted, walked forward voluntarily, put his hands behind his back, and allowed himself to be bound. Seeing this, Tuli did the same. The 40,000 remnants all threw down their weapons, dismounted, and surrendered. Among them, many Turkic soldiers shed tears of humiliation. Ling Jing instructed the generals beside him, Ho Junji, Zhang Liang, you two take the surrendered Turkic soldiers to the main Tang camp in Chang'an. Yu Qigong, Duan Jishuan, you lead the Tang army back to the Wei River camp. Chang Yaojin, you take a unit to escort Xieli and Tuli to the palace. Chang Yaojin asked, and the Grand Marshal and Deputy Commander? What will you be doing? Li Jing said calmly, the Marquis and I have some military matters to discuss. You go ahead, we will follow shortly. Once the Tang generals had departed in an orderly manner, Li Jing requested that Qingxiu take him to the camp to find his daughter. At this time, there were still many Tang soldiers guarding around the camp. Li Jing dismissed them, lifted the curtain, and walked inside. Inside, Li Yingqi, in full armor, was sitting on the bedding, one hand holding a black sausage, the other a bottle of rice wine, looking very comfortable. But when she saw Li Jing enter, her whole body trembled, and the sausage and wine in her hands fell to the ground. She suddenly stood, turned her back, as if trying to cover her tracks. Li Jing walked over with a dark face and turned her back around. Li Yingqi gave a dry laugh, then pretended to be surprised. Oh, father, what are you doing here? Li Jing's mouth twitched, his tiger eyes glaring. Nonsense. How many times have I told you, being a girl, you are not to enter the army camp? You never listen. Your mother doesn't know you're here, she must be terribly worried at home. Li Yingqi stuck out her tongue, lowered her head, and said weakly, Father, I just wanted to help you. Besides, who says women can't go to the battlefield and kill the enemy? You dare talk back? Li Jing's anger flared, and he raised his hand to strike. Qingxiu raised his brows, hurried forward, grabbed Li Jing's arm, and said anxiously, Duke Wei, calm your anger. I think Yingqi was just being playful, don't take it to heart. If you slap her and hurt her, what then? Li Jing was stunned, looking at Qingxiu in confusion. Is this kid trying to show off in front of me? Li Yingqi, on the other hand, felt a warmth in her heart. Her gaze toward Qingxiu grew more grateful. Li Jing shook off Qingxiu and cursed, She's my daughter, I'll hit her however I want. None of your business. Qingxiu felt secretly pleased. What a low EQ man. Even this can be turned to my advantage, it would be a waste not to. Qingxiu said earnestly, Grand Marshal, I know you're angry right now. But you should be happy that Yingqi wants to fight the enemy. This is a case of a heroine yielding no ground to men. If I were you, I would certainly fulfill her wish to go to battle. Li Jing was completely puzzled. Li Yingqi's eyes lit up as she looked at Qingxiu, thrilled, a soulmate. A real heroine equal to men. Get lost. Li Jing pushed Qingxiu aside, glared at Li Yingqi, and said irritably, You will now return home immediately. Your mother's health is poor, don't make her worry about you anymore. Li Yingqi whispered, I've already been out for 2 or 3 days, no rush. Father, how did you know I was here? She looked at Qingxiu, full of suspicion. Could it be you told my father I was here? Qingxiu said with a smile, Your scented sachet gave you away. Li Yingqi opened her mouth, took out a sachet from her chest, and gave a bitter smile. She understood everything. This sachet was blended by her father himself, how could he not recognize its scent? Li Yingqi put away the sachet, clung to Li Jing's arm, and said coquettishly, Father, let me go to the battlefield. I promise to protect myself. And with my martial skills, I can certainly kill more than a few Turks. Li Jing's mouth twitched. The truth is, to tell you frankly, the Turks have already surrendered. Li Yingqi's mouth fell open. So I came here for nothing? No, not for nothing. She at least experienced the joy of being a woman. Li Yingqi was unhappy. Seeing this, Li Jing said helplessly, Enough, don't pull a long face. Even though the Turks are defeated, aren't there still Tubo and Koguryo? There will surely be a chance for you to go to battle in the future. Now go home at once. Oh. Li Yingqi pouted, gave a half-hearted response, and left the tent with her head down, somewhat absent-minded. She never imagined that the 200,000 Turkic troops would be defeated in less than a single day. When she passed by Qingxiu, he said deliberately, Ah, pity my hundreds of fairy beans, just gone like that. Li Yingqi's body trembled, her face flushed red, and she bit her lip, speaking in a small voice, I will repay you. 10 days, at most 10 days' time. Qingxiu muttered something, and Li Yingqi, still blushing and with her head lowered, quickly walked out. Li Jing frowned and asked, Marquis Qing, what are you talking about? What fairy beans? What 10 days? Oh, nothing. Qingxiu gave an awkward smile. Grand Marshal, let's return and report our mission. Let's go. After that, Li Jing sent a unit to escort Li Yingqi back to Chang'an, while he and Qingxiu returned together to the imperial city. News of the victory quickly spread to every street and alley in Chang'an. The whole city was boiling with excitement, drums and gongs were beating, and the people were cheering. After all, for many years the Turks had been a thorn in the side and a sharp blade to the flesh of the Tang people. Without their destruction, the northern border would never be peaceful, and there would be daily incidents of burning, killing, and looting. Now, the 200,000 Turkic troops, 100,000 had been killed, and 100,000 had been captured. Even the 2 khans of the Turks had been taken. Qing residence. Ashinayu locked herself in her room, washing her face with tears, crying as if her heart were breaking. From now on, she was no longer a noble Turkic princess. Su Xiaochun entered, pushing the door with a servant boy who was carrying a food box. Seeing Ashinayu still sobbing, Su Xiaochun sighed, "Eat something first, don't cry yourself sick. I've already sent someone to the palace to inquire about your father. As soon as there's news, I'll tell you right away." Ashinayu also knew that crying like this was useless. She was not a sentimental person by nature. Hearing this, she quickly said to Su Xiaochun, "Thank you. Come, eat. Look at me, with my big belly, bringing you food. If you don't eat a few bites, wouldn't I lose face?" Su Xiaochun spread her hands, her expression innocent. Ashinayu came over, sat at the table, and began to eat in large mouthfuls. Even while eating, tears kept flowing down her cheeks. As she ate, Ashinayu lowered her head and said with a trace of relief, "Madam Qing, I'm sorry, I lied to you." Su Xiaochun was stunned and asked doubtfully, "You lied to me? About what?" Ashinayu lowered her head further, I said before that nothing happened between Marquis Qing and me, but that was a lie. In fact, in the past month, almost every night we were together." As she spoke, she secretly watched Su Xiaochun's reaction, her face showing some worry. She was afraid this Tang lady, who had been so good to her these past few days, would get angry and harm her health, or hurt the child in her belly. Ashinayu did not want such a gentle and kind Tang woman to be hurt, but not telling her was also a torment in her heart. She had mustered up great courage to say this. Su Xiaochun, however, showed an expression of as I expected. She sat down, smiled calmly, and said, "It's fine, I can forgive you." "Ah? What did you say?" Ashinayu could hardly believe her ears. Su Xiaochun chuckled, "I said it's fine, I can forgive you. I don't blame you for lying to me." Ashinayu's eyes turned red, and she said softly, "Thank you, you are truly kind." She had never met such a kind Tang woman. Su Xiaochun sighed helplessly, "As for my husband, if you say he is kind, he can be kinder than anyone, knowing how to care for women. But if you say he's not kind, he can be extremely unkind, this unrestrained nature of his, he can never change. I've accepted my fate, after all, he is my husband." "Yes." Ashinayu, blushing, whispered, "Madam Qing is absolutely right, Marquis Qing truly is unrestrained. If he weren't so unrestrained, how could he have kept her pleasing him in different ways for an entire month?" Su Xiaochun's expression turned serious. "Let's speak of proper matters. Since you are already my husband's woman, and with the Turks defeated, the Tang will soon reclaim the grasslands. There is no way you can return to the Turks. Even if my husband were willing to let you go, His Majesty would never allow someone of a hostile nation to leave. So my suggestion is, stay here in the residence and rest quietly while you carry the child." "Rest quietly, while carrying the child?" Ashinayu was stunned. She swallowed hard and said in disbelief, "Madam Qing is saying, that I am pregnant?" She lowered her head, looked at her flat belly, and unconsciously placed her hand on it. Su Xiaochun nodded, "Yes, you are. A few days ago when I saw you vomiting, I began to suspect. Do you remember when I asked a doctor to check your pulse?" Ashinayu said blankly, "But the doctor said it was due to acclimatization issues." Su Xiaochun gave a bitter smile, "Silly girl, you've been in Chang'an for so long without any trouble from acclimatization, how could it suddenly happen? The doctor felt your pulse and found it was a pregnancy pulse. You are already pregnant, and it's full term." Ashinayu felt flustered and at a loss. Su Xiaochun was nervous, very afraid that Ashinayu would not accept the fact and would choose to have an abortion. After all, technically, Qingxiu and Ashinayu were still enemies, though at the level of nations, it was still an enemy relationship. "I really am pregnant?" "Yes, you are. I want to ask what you plan to do from now on." Ashinayu was silent for a moment, then gritted her teeth and said, "Since Madam Qing is so generous as not to reject me, and is even willing to accept me, I will not be petty either. But, my status is still that of a Turkic princess. I can stay here to carry the child for him, but I have one request." "What request?" Su Xiaochun asked. Ashinayu said, "He must guarantee my father's safety, otherwise, I will not give birth to his child." "This," Su Xiaochun frowned, "I will tell my husband. I believe he will find a way to keep your father safe." "Thank you. I also want to see my father. I don't know if there will be a chance." Ashinayu was very hopeful. Su Xiaochun gave a bitter smile, "I will tell my husband, but whether His Majesty agrees is another matter." Ashinayu shook her head, "I will not make things difficult for you. I just want to see my father to confirm that he is still alive." If I can be granted that, I will have no other desires in this life and will serve Marquis Qing wholeheartedly. In truth, even without Ashina Yu mentioning it, Li Er would not easily kill Xieli. After all, Li Er cared about the shame of Bema Valley. Without making Xieli suffer some humiliation, he would not let the matter rest. The Turks came to invade. I, your subject Li Jing, was fortunate not to fail in my duty. I destroyed 110,000 of the enemy, captured 90,000 Turks, including the Turkic Jeli Khan and Tuli Khan. Both have been captured and are now being escorted outside the palace. Outside the Taiji Hall, Li Jing reported the battle results to Li Er. Because there were far too many officials attending this morning court session, a high-voiced eunuch loudly announced. The soldiers have returned victorious from the expedition, 110,000 enemies slain, 90,000 captured, Jeli Khan of the Turks captured alive, Tuli Khan of the Turks captured alive. Thousands of officials from across the land became excited. Almost every one of them showed an expression of joy. Since the founding of the Great Tang, the Turks had been a great burden pressing on the hearts of the Tang people. Now it was over. Not only was the main Turkic force wiped out, but the two Khans of the Turks were captured. From now on, the Turks would never again stir up great trouble, and the northern frontier would be completely at peace. Li Er's face flushed red with excitement, and he loudly said, "Good, good, good." 3 goods in a row were enough to show Li Er's excitement at that moment. Li Er stood up, came to the steps, and looked down at the thousands of officials below, speaking loudly. Li Jing, Duke of Wei, for merit in resisting the Turks, is promoted to Grand Master of the Purple Gold, rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold, 100 head of cattle and sheep, and 100 bolts of fine silk. Qingxiu, Marquis of Zhen, for merit in resisting the Turks, is promoted to Duke of Zhen, given 10,000 households in fief, rewarded with 10,000 taels of gold, 100 head of cattle and sheep, and 100 bolts of fine silk. Chang Yaojin, Duke of Lu, for merit in resisting the Turks, is promoted to Grand Master of the Purple Gold, given a purple gold and white jade belt, rewarded with 1,000 taels of gold, 100 head of cattle and sheep, and 100 bolts of fine silk. Duke of Yi, Li Er conferred rewards to 7 generals in one breath. Except for Li Jing and Qingxiu, who received 10,000 taels, the others received 1,000. In fact, the so-called 10,000 or 1,000 in gold was not gold, but bright silver. It just sounded grand. The 100 head of cattle and sheep actually included only 3 to 5 cows, the rest were sheep. After all, in this era, plow cattle were more precious than people, the most important labor force for farming. Your servant thanks your majesty. Your servant thanks your majesty. After the generals expressed thanks, Li Er smiled and said, "The soldiers have won a great victory, so naturally I must reward the army. Pass my decree, all soldiers who took part in the campaign against the Turks will each receive 1 guan of silver and will be granted a 1-month leave in batches to reunite with their families. Tomorrow at noon, I will hold a grand feast in the Taiji Palace to celebrate with the participating generals. All officials currently in Chang'an must attend." Li Er returned to his seat and said with a playful look, "Now then, bring up the 2 Turkic Khans." Soon, the heavily bound Jeli and Tuli were brought before Li Er. Jeli was forced to kneel on the ground before Li Er. He struggled several times but could not get up, finally smiling bitterly. "Li Shimin, we meet again, but I never expected it would be in this way." Li Er sighed. "Indeed. Last time we met on the banks of the Weishui River, I was forced to slaughter my beloved white horse to secure peace with you. But now, the roles have reversed." Jeli's heart stirred, and he said, "Tell me, what do you want in exchange for letting me return to the Turks?" Li Er chuckled. "As a distant guest, Khan of the Turks, I must treat you well. If I don't host you for a while, the people of the world will laugh at me for being stingy. You should experience the customs and culture of the Great Tang." Jeli lowered his head. He knew full well that Li Shimin would not easily let him go. "I have heard the Khan is skilled in singing and dancing, especially the Hu World dance, performed superbly. There's no better day than today. I'll have musicians accompany you so you can dance the Hu World to entertain the civil and military officials of the Great Tang. What do you think?" Jeli's expression changed, humiliation filled his face. He closed his eyes in pain. "I refuse." Li Shimin's face grew cold. In a deep voice, he said, "If I order you to dance, you will dance." Jeli opened his mouth, then lowered his head bitterly. I will dance. Since the Great Tang Emperor requests it, how could I refuse?" Everyone knew by now that Jeli had submitted. Soon, Li Shimin ordered musicians to be arranged, and Jeli was dressed in colorful Hu-style garments. With lively music playing, Jeli twisted his somewhat plump body and began the Hu World dance, and as he danced, he got more and more into it. There was no choice, under someone else's roof, one must bow their head. When the dance ended, Jieli panted heavily. Is your majesty satisfied? Very satisfied. Extremely satisfied. Seeing Jieli lose all dignity before the entire court, Li Shimin couldn't stop smiling. Jieli tentatively asked. Since you are satisfied, could you let me return to the Turks? I am willing to give you 100,000 cattle and sheep, 100,000 in gold and silver, no, 1 million in gold and silver, as long as you release me, I will have them sent to you immediately. Li Shimin's face turned cold, and he sneered. Are you dreaming? Jieli, I have endured you for a long time. You repeatedly violated the border, burning, killing, and plundering in the lands where my Tang people live. How many Tang people have died because of your decisions? Likely no fewer than hundreds of thousands, correct? Tang men, you tortured to death for sport. Tang women, your Turkic soldiers violated and killed. You even had young Tang girls captured for food, shamelessly calling them two-legged sheep. The crimes you have committed in the Great Tang are countless. The Tang people wish they could eat your flesh and drink your blood. Even cutting you into pieces and grinding your bones to dust would be too light a punishment. And now you still think about returning to the Turks? Return for what? To rebuild the grassland tribes, gather an army, and invade my borders again? To slaughter my Tang people? Jieli's face turned ashen. From Li Shimin's tone, he could tell there was no chance of being allowed back. As if resigned to his fate, he lowered his head. If you're going to kill me, then give me a quick death. If he was not to be released, he would surely be killed. Li Shimin shook his head. I never said I would kill you. You won't kill me? Jieli was stunned. Li Shimin continued. Since you've come to the Great Tang, stay here and don't leave. The Imperial Music Bureau still lacks a lead dancer. You can work there and train dancers for the Tang. That way, I can also watch you dance whenever I wish. Jieli's mouth fell open, his face flushed red. But in the end, he nodded helplessly. Thank you for sparing my life. Since you are now an official of the Great Tang, you are a minister receiving the emperor's pay. You should understand the loyalty between ruler and subject, correct? Jieli froze, then knelt and said. Thank you, your majesty, for your mercy. Li Shimin stroked his beard and smiled. Looking at Tuli, he said. Tuli, just as I will not kill Jieli, I will not kill you either. You were born on the grasslands and are skilled in the breeding of livestock. From now on, you will be in charge of raising horses at the imperial stables. Tuli. From Khan to stable hand in one move, the difference in status was too great, and Tuli could hardly accept it. The grand court session ended, and all the civil and military officials dispersed. Outside Chengtian Gate, a group of family members had gathered. To welcome Li Jing back, of course, there was Lady Hongfu and their daughter Li Yingqi. Lady Hongfu was not like the chivalrous heroine image in the legends, but rather looked like a beautiful wife, her body slightly plump, wearing a reddish dress, appearing to be in her 30s. Li Yingqi had a few similar features to her. Chang Yaojin's 2 wives and 3 sons had come, and of course there was also Qingxiu's fiancée-to-be, concubine Cui Yuanran. There were also Yu Qigong's black and white wives and his 2 sons. From the appearance of the 2 young Yuqis, it was obvious they were Yu Qigong's bloodline, tall and sturdy, broad and thick, with height and waist both measuring 8 qi, the kind with no visible neck. Next came the families of Zhang Liang and Hou Junji. Of course, several of Qingxiu's wives had also come, including his fiancée-to-be Yen Yushi. Su Xiaochun, holding a willow branch and with a big belly, came forward and swept the willow branch over Qingxiu's body. It was said this could sweep away the dust from the journey, as well as bad luck and the killing aura, so they would not be brought into the home to cause disaster. Of course, this was feudal superstition, and Qingxiu absolutely did not believe it. But he could not resist their persistence. Every wife and concubine had to sweep him a few times. Except for Su Xiaochun and Yunyang, who were gentle, the others used extra force, each showing a sly expression. This made Qingxiu suspect they were taking revenge for all sleeping together under one blanket the other night. Qingxiu gritted his teeth and said, Be gentle, be gentle. Princess Gongyi, I didn't expect you to hit so hard. Just wait and see how I deal with you tonight. And you, Chang Sun Pingting, you won't escape either. Chang Sun Pingting's eyes lit up. She grabbed the willow branch and hit him a few more times, saying proudly, Husband, if you have the ability, come at me. I'm not afraid. Li Lizhu covered her mouth and giggled. You deal with Pingting then. I'm going back to the prince consort's residence tonight anyway. Li Yuqing's eyes brightened. Did hitting harder mean being dealt with more severely at night? Come, give me the willow branch. It's my turn. Li Yuqing snatched the willow branch, smiling. Husband, bear with it. I'll be gentle. Smack. Qingxiu drew in a sharp breath and cursed. So heavy-handed. You won't escape either, everyone here is included. Li Yuqing hit him with even more enthusiasm. After all, at the like wolves at 30, like tigers at 40 age, Li Yuqing's needs in that regard were greater than the others. Seeing Qingxiu getting beaten so badly, Li Yingqi felt a strong urge to join in and hit him too, but she only imagined it in her heart. After all, she did not even have an official status. Thinking of status, her eyes unconsciously showed some envy. Seeing the whole family happy together, wives and concubines getting along without jealousy, she really wanted to join this big family. Yingqi, what are you looking at so intently? Lady Hongfu noticed Li Yingqi's attention was elsewhere. Following her gaze, she caught the subtle look in Yingqi's eyes and her heart gave a small jolt. Li Yingqi came back to herself quickly and said, "It's nothing. Father, mother, let's go. Tonight is mid-autumn, and we still have to see the lanterns." Lady Hongfu glanced over again, then led her husband Li Jing and daughter Li Yingqi onto the carriage. After Li Yuqing finished hitting, she handed the willow branch to Yan Yushi, smiling. "You should hit a few times too." "Me?" Yan Yushi's pretty face turned red and she said shyly. "I'd better not. Sister, I haven't married in yet." Su Xiaochun giggled. "It's fine, you'll marry in sooner or later. If you don't hit now, you won't get the chance later." Yan Yushi hesitantly took the willow branch and lightly swept Qingxiu twice. Who would have thought Qingxiu would suddenly cry out in pain, clutching the spot where she swept, and say with a pained face, "Ow! Miss Yan, you hit too hard. Are you trying to murder your husband?" Yan Yushi was dumbfounded. In her whole life, it was the first time she had met someone faking like this, and she didn't know what to do. Su Xiaochun pouted. "Pretend all you want. Sister Shishir didn't even use any force." Cui Yuanran, watching from not far away, also laughed. Cheng Yaojin came over, smiling. "Yan family girl, give the willow branch to me." Not only Qingxiu was stunned, his wives and concubines were also stunned. Su Xiaochun said in shock, "Uncle Cheng, are you also going to be my husband's concubine?" Cheng Yaojin's mouth twitched, and his face darkened. "Nonsense! My niece hasn't hit yet." Qingxiu simply snatched the willow branch and tossed it aside, saying to Cheng Yaojin, "Uncle Cheng, forget it. After she marries in, there will be plenty of chances to hit." Cheng Yaojin grinned and said, "My niece's father, mother, and grandfather have come and are staying at my house for now. Find a time to come meet them, bring a small gift, they're frugal people, they don't like extravagance. Just remember that." Qingxiu nodded. "After His Majesty's victory feast, I'll visit your residence." "Good. I'll go home first, you should head home soon too." With that, Cheng Yaojin left with his family, and Qingxiu also took a carriage back to the Qing residence. He first took a nice long bath. Su Xiaochun came in with a clean set of clothes, placed them on the rack, and stood behind the bath barrel to wash his back. Qingxiu held her soft, delicate hand and asked gently, "Wife, is there something you want to say?" Su Xiaochun pursed her lips. "Nothing can be hidden from you." Qingxiu smiled faintly. "Wife, just say what you want. Why be polite with your husband?" Su Xiaochun said softly, "After your bath, go visit the Turkic princess." Qingxiu was surprised. "Why? She is pregnant." "Ah?" Qingxiu was stunned. "Pregnant?" Su Xiaochun sighed. "She's already started having morning sickness these past few days. I think the child is already full term. Even if you wanted to hide it, you can't." Qingxiu looked a little embarrassed. No wonder. During that crazy month with Ashinayu, there were several times they didn't take any protective measures, only using the most primitive squatting method to flush afterwards, which was not effective at all. Su Xiaochun continued. After hearing of the Turkic defeat and her father's capture, she cried for a whole day. If she keeps crying like that, she'll harm her body, and she has something to ask you. Qingxiu nodded. "I know, she wants to see her father, right?" Su Xiaochun nodded. Qingxiu said, "I'll go see her in a while." After Su Xiaochun left, Qingxiu got dressed and went to Ashinayu's room. Ashinayu curled up on the bed, her eyes red like a rabbit's. When she saw Qingxiu push the door open and come in, she quickly turned over, got off the bed, and in a few quick steps came forward to grab Qingxiu, asking nervously, "How is my father? Did the great Tang Emperor make things hard for him? Sit down and talk." Qingxiu sat down at the small table, and Ashinayu sat right next to him, looking very anxious. Qingxiu said unhurriedly, "His Majesty originally intended to execute your father, but I pleaded for him. Your father's life is spared." When he said this, Qingxiu's face didn't turn red, nor did his heart race, his skin had already been trained to be thick enough. In truth, he hadn't pleaded at all, because Li Er had already intended to keep Jieli alive and humiliate him for a while to avenge the White Horse incident. So saying this was just to gain favor, so Ashina would be devoted to following him from now on. Ashina's emotions rose and fell like a roller coaster. After hearing the full sentence, her body felt weak. Her eyes immediately filled with tears, and with a face full of gratitude she said, thank you for saving my father's life. Qingxiu said, I know you want to see your father right now, but not yet. If you want to see him, wait a few more days. When he takes up his new post, I'll personally take you to see him. Ashina asked with some doubt. New post? What do you mean? Qingxiu chuckled. His Majesty not only didn't kill your father, but even gave him an easy job. He's assigned to the Imperial Music Bureau as a dance instructor, mainly responsible for arranging performances for important occasions. Ah? Really? Ashina's expression brightened, and she looked at Qingxiu with even more gratitude. Lord Qing, Ashina sincerely thanks you for getting such a good position for my father. I will repay you. Qingxiu hid his embarrassment and smiled. Just a simple repayment? Ashina's face turned slightly red as she stood up, gently slipping off her clothing. Biting her lip, she said in a trembling voice. You have fulfilled your promise to Ashina, and I will not go back on my word. From now on, in life I am your person, in death I am your ghost. In this life, I will serve only you. Seeing Ashina's delicate, jade-like body, Qingxiu's breathing quickened. He suppressed the fire in his heart, got up, helped her put her clothes back on, and said, you are already pregnant. Nurturing the child is the most important thing. As for matters between man and woman, don't think about them. Before you give birth, I won't touch you. Ashina was moved, almost to tears. Her gaze was soft, her expression slightly charming, and she said sweetly, you won't touch Ashina, but Ashina can touch you. Saying this, Ashina knelt down. Qingxiu felt warmth spread through his body and couldn't help but draw in a sharp breath. After a month of careful teaching from Qingxiu, Ashina had already mastered many skills. Now she was demonstrating to her teacher what it meant for the student to surpass the master. In Chang'an, those skilled in mouth techniques were mostly in the Qing residence. Half an hour later, Qingxiu lifted the hand resting on Ashina's head and said, get ready, it's time to eat. Tonight I'll take you all to enjoy the lanterns. Ashina's appetite was good, she liked almost everything. When food was mentioned, she first nibbled on a few bites. After dinner, Qingxiu took his family out. It was the Mid-Autumn Festival, and Chang'an City had lifted the night curfew for 3 days. Every evening people celebrated the festival all night long. Almost all the citizens of Chang'an gathered on Zhuke Street. The stalls along both sides were brightly lit, and goods of every kind were on display: lantern sellers, riddle games, snack vendors, fortune tellers, character readers, in short, everything one could think of. The various cries of vendors never stopped. Among them were some Persian merchants selling glass beads, but few came to buy. After all, glass beads had already become so common that even in the alleys children were playing with them. The Persian merchants could no longer fool Tang people out of their money. A few Hu merchants were nearby, speaking in broken Chinese to sell their goods. Hu girls for sale, virgin Hu girls just brought from Hu lands, definitely under 18 years old. Human trafficking had now become commonplace. Qingxiu noticed one Hu merchant holding an iron chain, the other end tied to 5 or 6 brown-haired, blue-eyed Hu girls. Each was scantily dressed, showing white thighs and waists, throwing flirtatious glances at passing Tang gentlemen. Su Xiaochun saw Qingxiu looking at the Hu girls and frowned. Husband, you'd better not get any ideas about these Hu girls. I heard they all have body odor, are not clean, and their scent is all from heavy perfume. After saying this, she secretly watched Qingxiu's reaction. She was truly afraid he might bring some Hu girls home to warm his bed. If that happened, she knew she couldn't stop it. Qingxiu turned back and smiled. I just think these Hu girls are a bit pitiful. I have no thoughts about them. He looked again at Ashina and teased. Ashina looks much better than these Hu girls. Isn't she also a Hu face? Having one Hu girl at home is already enough. Ashina said angrily. I am not a Hu girl, I am a princess of the Turks. How can you compare me to these Hu girls? For Ashina, being compared to a Hu girl was an insult. After dinner together, the women had already accepted Ashina's presence. She had also changed her form of address, from Lord Qing to you, and now to husband, fully blending in with the wives and concubines. Write a poem and get a lantern, come and see, write a poem and get a lantern for free. Ahead, a stall owner dressed as a scholar had all kinds of lanterns displayed. Many literati were already gathered in front of the stall. Li Liju smiled and said, Husband, I want a free lantern. I want one too, I want one too. Chang Sun Pingting was not to be outdone. Yunyang smiled. Master has such literary talent, you should write a few poems and get each of us a lantern. Li Yuchan, like Changsun Pingting, clapped and cheered happily for lanterns. Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan just smiled warmly. As senior sisters, they truly regarded these younger girls as children. Husband. Su Xiaochun's eyes curved like crescent moons as she said sweetly, I want one too, actually, I want two. Qingxiu said with a wry smile. One is enough. Why do you want two? Su Xiaochun rolled her eyes. I'll bring one back for Sister Yener. She's bedridden now and surely longs to come out. If I bring her a lantern, it will be like she joined us in our outing. Qingxiu was touched and rubbed Su Xiaochun's small head. No matter when, Su Xiaochun's nature was kind. Even when out enjoying herself, she still thought of others. In front of the stall for free lanterns, quite a few scholars had already gathered, and among them were also young ladies from noble families. These young ladies generally admired talented scholars. There were also quite a few scholars who came specifically to show off their literary talent to win the favor of these young ladies. After all, if one caught the eye of some noble's daughter, at the very least they would never have to worry about food and clothing, and might even have a chance to enter officialdom. At the stall, there was at this moment a stunningly beautiful woman composing a poem. This stunningly beautiful woman looked to be about 25 or 26 years old, wearing a light blue dress, with a graceful figure like Shao Qing in The Legend of the White Snake. Between her brows was the scholarly air cultivated since childhood. She opened her mouth and recited, Mid-autumn night, the city is joyful, my heart alone is worried. I do not see my beloved, only the long bright moon. Good poem, young lady, such fine talent. May I ask your surname and given name? Are you married? I am Wang Jianghai, student of Kongingda. Seeing the young lady's outstanding literary skill, I wish to make your acquaintance. May I know your esteemed name? With such beauty that could topple a nation, and such stunning looks, whose daughter is this? After she finished her poem, flattery came from all around. The woman, her face cool and aloof, looked at the stall owner and asked, May I know if this poem of mine qualifies for a lantern? Yes. The stall owner quickly nodded, then took up his brush and, in fine clerical script, wrote her poem into a bound blank book. The stall owner smiled and asked, Please also leave your name, I wish to include it in my poetry collection. The aloof woman lightly opened her mouth and said, Ku Yuanran. The stall owner happily wrote down the name, then said with a smile, Young lady, please pick any lantern you like here, but only one. Not far away, Qingxiu's mouth twitched as he looked at his wives and concubines behind him. They also looked a bit incredulous. Su Xiaochun tilted her head and said doubtfully, She, actually has the same name as Uncle Chui's niece. Qingxiu's mouth twitched. This is not the same name, she is using Chui Yuanran's name. What? She's using Sister Chui's name? What's her purpose in doing that? So strange, why would she use Miss Chui's name? The wives behind chattered on in discussion. Qingxiu stepped forward to the stall and asked, Stall owner, what level must a poem be to get a lantern? The stall owner smiled and said, Of course, it must be of passable quality. Otherwise, if anyone could casually make a poem and get a lantern, I'd go bankrupt. Qingxiu smiled and nodded. All right, then note this down, I want 8 lanterns. As soon as he said this, everyone was shocked. 8 lanterns? Is he joking? Good grief, does that mean he must make 8 poems? Even young Master Wang made 3 poems and didn't get a single lantern, and he wants 8? This man's words are bold. Qingxiu didn't care what others said. Making poems was nothing for him, he could do it with his mouth open. He began to recite, When will the bright moon appear? I raise my cup to ask the blue sky. I do not know in the heavenly palace, what year it is tonight. I wish to ride the wind and return, yet fear the jade towers. May we all live long, and share the beauty of the moon across 1,000 miles. The fake Chui Yuanran, who had just picked her lantern and was about to leave, couldn't help but glance at Qingxiu and softly murmur, A fine work. Then her eyes showed a bit of heat. The stall owner, after recording it, read it carefully, and his face flushed with excitement. Good poem, such a fine CI. This is the best CI I have collected this year so far. Qingxiu asked, May I get the lanterns now? Yes. With just this poem, you may take 3 lanterns. Only 3? Qingxiu murmured. Seems I'll have to make 2 more poems then. He turned to Su Xiaochun and said, Wife, ladies, come pick your lanterns. The women swarmed forward, chattering as they chose lanterns. Seeing so many beauties gathered, the onlookers' eyes lit up. Everyone looked at Qingxiu with envy and jealousy. Many single men's eyes seemed ready to spit fire. Why was it that they were single, and he had so many stunning wives? The stall's young scholar, seeing so many people picking lanterns, became a bit anxious. Qingxiu smiled. Don't worry, I won't take them for free. Listen well, I'm going to make another poem. You all watch, I'm going to show off now. The stall scholar quickly took up his brush, ready. Qingxiu asked. Are there any other requirements for the poems? The stall scholar pointed to the moon above and said. As long as it's related to the moon, any theme will do. Qingxiu said with interest. So as long as the poem mentions the moon, even if I put it in the sea or the rivers, it's fine. Of course, as long as your imagination is rich, you can merge the whole world into it. As long as it has the moon and mid-autumn, it's fine. Alright, listen then, the spring river's tide flows with the sea, and on the sea, the bright moon rises with the tide. Following the waves for thousands of li, where is there no moon on the spring river? Whose boat tonight drifts alone, where is the bright moon tower of longing? How many will return on the moon's light? The falling moon stirs feelings among the river's trees. Good grief, a whole spring river, flower moon, night by Zhang Ruoxu, copied out complete. Once this poem came out, who else dared claim they could make poetry? This work was called The Unmatched Crown of the Tang. Though it wasn't exactly in season, the stall scholar had already said that as long as there was a moon, anything was fine, a spring river and the sea would do just fine. The moment the poem was recited, the place fell silent. Even the bystanders were quiet. Those who didn't understand poetry thought, what a long poem. Those who understood were utterly shaken. The stall scholar was completely dumbfounded. Crushing, it was total crushing. The dozen or so poems he'd collected before were nothing compared to this. Putting them in the same book would insult this poem. The fake Cui Yuanran was completely stunned. The wives all showed looks of worship and pride. After all, when their husband showed off, it made them shine as well. Qingxiu asked. How many lanterns can this poem exchange for? The stall scholar came back to himself and said excitedly. Sir, you may take any lanterns you like. You could even take them all. But first, please leave your name, so the world may know this is your fine work. Qingxiu smiled faintly and said. Qingxiu, Qing is in celebration, Xiu as in self-cultivation. A person's name is like a tree's shadow. The moment it was spoken, everyone present was in an uproar. Heavens, it's Lord Qing, it's actually Lord Qing. Heaven above, I have seen Lord Qing with my own eyes today. What Lord Qing? He is now Duke of Qinghua, conferred today by His Majesty for his merits in resisting the Turks, a Duke of the nation, equal in rank to a prince. The Duke of the nation who defeated 200,000 Turkic troops, and captured 2 khans alive, truly a pillar of our great Tang. Not only did these exclamations ring out, but even nearby vendors, hearing his name, began bringing over goods. All sorts of food and toys were shoved into his arms, and in a moment he was loaded full. Qingxiu was a bit dumbfounded. He had not expected to be so popular. Although Qingxiu did not like flattery, when the subject concerned himself, that was another matter. The rainbow words of praise from the people around him made him feel a little lightheaded. The stall owner selling lanterns had a trembling hand while writing, his face flushed with excitement. Qingxiu curiously asked. Little boss, your lanterns are very beautifully made. Giving away one for each poem, won't you lose money? The scholarly stall owner looked around with some difficulty, hesitated for a moment, then said. If anyone else asked me this, I wouldn't tell them the reason. But since the Duke of Zhen the nation is asking, it's fine to explain. I collect these good poems to copy into a volume and sell. There are plenty of wealthy young masters who like poetry, and some are generous spenders. These lanterns together only cost 3 to 5 taels of silver. Once I compile the poetry collection and happen to meet a wealthy young master who appreciates it, I might sell one book for 3 to 5 taels of silver, enough to earn back the cost of the lanterns. It could be done this way? Qingxiu had to admire the stall owner's business sense. When the surrounding people heard this, they were in an uproar. Wow, so collecting poetry in this way is so profitable? Ah, I regret it. If I'd known, I would have rushed to make a batch of lanterns to collect poems. How come I never thought of such a good deal? Many people looked at the stall owner with envy. The stall owner smiled happily. This poetry collection, with the Duke of Zhen the nation's poems in it, will definitely sell for a good price. Your spring river, flower moon, night is a masterpiece among poems, and that earlier, when will the bright moon appear, raising my cup to ask the blue sky, is also a masterpiece among ci. Your Grace may not know, in our Chang'an, the literati hold your poems and ci in the highest esteem, calling you the greatest poet in 500 years. A poetry collection with your works will have no trouble selling. After the stall owner said this, several literati immediately threw silver coins over. Little sir, I'll pre-order a copy of this poetry collection, send it to the Qin family in Anshan Ward. I'll order one as well. I'll order one too. Many people began lining up to pay. After Qingxiu took the corresponding number of lanterns, he smiled and looked at the fake Cui Yuanran, walked over, and with a smile asked, "This Miss Chui's poem is also good. May I ask, what is Miss Chui's relation to Duke of Lu, Cheng Yaojin?" The fake Cui Yuanran, with a cold and aloof face, did not show emotion, but the color of her skin quickly turned red, the redness spreading to the tips of her ears. From his god's eye view, noticing this change immediately, Qingxiu was already certain that this aloof woman had a considerable relationship with Cui Yuanran, perhaps her elder sister, or maybe her cousin. She looked to be about 25 years old. At such a young age, she was likely not an elder. The fake Cui Yuanran, however, shook her head coldly and said, "What Duke of Lu, Cheng Yaojin? I don't know him." After saying this, she took the lantern and walked away without looking back, quickly disappearing into the crowd. Qingxiu smiled faintly and did not ask further questions. After leaving the lantern stall, Su Xiaoqun walked up with a bright smile, holding Qingxiu's arm and giggling. "Husband, that lady just now must be connected to Miss Cui. At the very least, the two must be acquaintances. Otherwise, why would she use Miss Chui's name to write a poem?" Qingxiu chuckled. "That's for sure. I think when I take Sister Yuan Yan into the household, her identity will naturally be revealed." Su Xiaoqun covered her mouth and laughed. "When that happens, it will definitely be an awkward scene. I'm really looking forward to it. Husband, after His Majesty's victory banquet in a few days, you should go to Uncle Chui's house. As for the marriage with Miss Cui, the sooner it's decided, the better." Among all the wives and concubines, the one Su Xiaoqun was most satisfied with was Cui Yuanyan. Not to mention her background from one of the 5 surnames and 7 clans, just Cui Yuanyan herself was well learned and talented. This made Su Xiaoqun, who had never studied or learned to read, feel much envy. Recently, she had often been in contact with Cui Yuanyan, learning some knowledge from books through her. Cui Yuanyan, wanting to build a good relationship with Su Xiaoqun, had been very patient in teaching her. After leaving the lantern stall, the fake Cui Yuanyan found a relatively quiet place and stood there in a daze, her face occasionally showing a blush of embarrassment. So humiliating. Using Yuanyan's name and then actually running into her future husband's family, this is simply too embarrassing. The fake Cui Yuanyan felt like crying without tears and instantly lost all interest in strolling around Chang'an that night. When she returned to the Cui residence, Madame Cui was surprised to see her come back so quickly. She walked up and asked, "Sister Qingyu, didn't you say you were going to stroll in Chang'an at night? Why have you come back so soon?" Song Qingyu replied vaguely, "I felt a bit tired, so I came back first. Sister, I'll go rest in my room." Finding an excuse, Song Qingyu went to her room and then rested her chin in her hand, staring blankly. Qingxiu spent half the night playing with his wives and concubines, doing things like guessing lantern riddles, pitchpot, and word riddles. Considering that Su Xiaoqun was pregnant and could not stay up too late, he took his wives and concubines back to the Qing residence. Qingxiu did not go anywhere else but stayed in Su Xiaoqun's room. When Su Xiaoqun finished bathing and saw her husband still there, she walked over, drying her damp hair, and asked suspiciously, "Husband, why are you still here? It's late, and in a few days you have to attend His Majesty's victory banquet. You should rest early." Qingxiu lay down directly on the bed and said, "Since you became pregnant, I haven't properly spent a day with you. Today I'm not going anywhere, I'll just stay here and keep you company." Su Xiaoqun felt warm inside, her eyes turning slightly red. She was naturally very moved. She came over, took Qingxiu's arm, and said, "Husband, it's enough that you have the thought. I have Yunyang to keep me company. But the others, none of them have any movement in their bellies. You should focus on them. Go back to your room. Whoever you want to have serve you tonight, go to her room. I think you should go to Aunt Qing. Her monthly cycle ended 5 days ago, so these next few days are the best time for her to conceive. Aunt Qing is a few years older. At her age, she should give you children as soon as possible. Otherwise, when the younger ones all have children and only Aunt Qing and Sister Lu have no movement in their bellies, imagine how anxious they must be." Qingxiu's mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but think of what Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan had once said to him. In truth, the 2 senior sisters meant something simple. They both said they were already older and did not want to have children again. Also, because childbirth had made certain parts of their bodies loose, they feared men would lose interest. So the 2 had already decided not to have children. But Qingxiu had never told Su Xiaoqun this. Since Su Xiaoqun had now asked, Qingxiu decided to tell her about this matter, so she would not worry in the future about Li Yuqing's and Lu Yunyan's lack of pregnancy. Just as he was about to speak, Yunyang pushed the door open and came in. Seeing Qingxiu lying on the bed, Yunyang first froze, then lowered her head to think for a moment, then looked up with a serious expression and said, "Sorry, I went to the wrong room." She then gave Su Xiaochun an ambiguous look and said, "Xiaochun, mother-in-law once said that for a pregnant woman, intercourse should be avoided in the first 2 or 3 months, but after 3 months, it's still fine, as long as the movements aren't too intense, there's no problem at all." Su Xiaochun's face turned red, and she pointed at Yunyang, scolding shyly. "What nonsense are you talking about? Hurry and come to bed. Husband only came here to chat, and he's just about to leave." After saying this, she pulled Qingxiu up and pushed him toward the door, urging, "Go, go. You're not welcome here. Tonight, you can go to anyone's room you want, just not here." With an innocent look, Qingxiu was pushed out, and then he heard Su Xiaochun slam the door shut, locking it from inside. He shrugged helplessly with a wry smile and could only return to his own room. Passing by Li Yuqing's room, Qingxiu heard the sound of splashing water. His heart stirred, and he pushed at the door. But the door was locked from inside and did not open. So he knocked. A lazy voice came from inside. "So late, who is it?" "It's me. Open the door." Qingxiu gave his name. First there was the sound of water again, and then Li Yuqing's gentle voice came. "Husband, wait a moment." After a short while, the door opened, and Li Yuqing stood there like a lotus emerging from the water, her body giving off a refreshing fragrance, with drops of water hanging from the ends of her hair. Qingxiu walked straight in and locked the door. Li Yuqing seemed to realize what might happen next. Her cheeks turned slightly red, but she pretended to be calm and asked, "Husband, what brings you here so late?" Qingxiu said seriously, "It's autumn now, and the nights are a bit chilly. Aunt Qing has just bathed, and your hair is still wet. That way it's easy to catch a cold, so I came to help you dry your hair." Li Yuqing looked at Qingxiu as if she'd seen a ghost, then suddenly laughed, covering her mouth, her body shaking as she bent over. "Husband, this is like, the drunken man's intention is not in the wine, isn't it?" Without explanation, Qingxiu stepped forward and lifted Li Yuqing in a princess carry, saying with a straight face, "What drunken man's intention not in wine? I haven't read books, I don't know what that means." Li Yuqing was cold outside and warm inside, outwardly dignified and aloof, but inwardly fiery, though that depended on the person. If it was an outsider, she was cold outside and inside. But if it was Qingxiu, then she was cold outside but warm inside. Hearing what Qingxiu said, Li Yuqing's cheeks turned red, and she laughed softly, leaning close to his ear and whispering breathily, "Husband, do you want me?" Qingxiu's body trembled, that one me, completely igniting him. "Yes. Of course I do. How much do you want me?" Li Yuqing hooked her arm around Qingxiu's neck and pulled him down hard. Qingxiu could not help but arrive at the strawberry field, and once there, how could he not plant a few strawberries? So while planting strawberries, Qingxiu said, "I even dream about it. What part of me do you want?" Li Yuqing raised her face, squinting at the ceiling beam, lightly biting her lip. "All of you." Li Yuqing laughed charmingly a few times, then Qingxiu tossed her onto the couch. She lifted her jade-like foot and pressed it against Qingxiu's chest, biting her lip seductively. "The night is long, husband, how can you be in such a hurry? Wait a moment and let me change clothes." Before long, Li Yuqing reappeared in front of Qingxiu wearing an outfit with red non-slip thigh bands and black silk straps. After about the time of 1 incense stick, when Qingxiu was about to lift the curtain to enter, there was a knock at the door. Li Yuqing quickly looked up and asked, "Who is it?" From outside came Lu Yunyan's voice. "Senior sister, it's me. I have something to discuss. Can I come in now?" Li Yuqing exchanged a glance with Qingxiu, then smiled and whispered in his ear, "Husband, how about?" She pointed toward the door. Qingxiu suppressed his rising battle spirit, stood up, and moved to the side of the wardrobe, then stepped inside it. Li Yuqing chuckled softly, then called toward the door, "So it's junior sister. Wait, I'll open the door." She walked over and opened it. Seeing Li Yuqing's clothing, Lu Yunyan was stunned. "Senior sister, even alone at night you dress so boldly?" Then, still suspicious, she glanced inside the room, but seeing no one, she grew even more puzzled. Dressing so provocatively alone, who could it be for? Li Yuqing pulled her inside, locked the door behind her, and rolled her eyes. "What are you looking at? There's no one here." Lu Yunyan gave an embarrassed smile. "Seeing you dressed like this, I thought husband was here. Why did junior sister come looking for me so late?" Lu Yunyan shook her head. "Actually, it's nothing important. I just couldn't sleep and wanted to chat with senior sister." Li Yuqing smiled lightly. "Why don't we sleep together tonight then?" Lu Yunyan smiled and nodded. "That would be best. Come, junior sister, go inside." Lu Yunyan took off her shoes and went to lie down on the bed. Li Yuqing asked. What do you want to talk about? Lu Yunyan hesitated slightly, then sighed. Senior sister, I want to talk about Xiaoro and Xianer. Li Yuqing was surprised. Weren't they doing well in Sanha village? They have food and shelter, and have regained their freedom since childhood. They can go wherever they want. What is there to talk about? Lu Yunyan smiled bitterly. Senior sister, look at us two now. We're both married women. For the rest of our lives, we'll be with husband. Even if we go back to the Miao village, we won't stay long. We, as masters, have married. We can't still use the old Miao village rules to bind Xiaoro and Xianer, right? They are both grown, now both 18 years old. According to Tang law, by 20 they should already be married. Now you manage the entire Miao village. You won't still use the old rules to bind them, will you? They grew up with us. If they were to return to the village for the rest of their lives, I believe you wouldn't bear it either, right? Li Yuqing nodded slightly. Lu Yunyan sighed. So, since we as masters can't keep the rules, we can't demand our disciples follow them either. They're not young anymore, so I was thinking. As she spoke, Lu Yunyan looked at Li Yuqing, seeking her opinion. Li Yuqing said. So you want Xiaoro and Xianer to find husbands here in Chang'an? Lu Yunyan nodded. Exactly. Husband knows many sons from wealthy and noble families, and there must be some suitable young men. That's why I came to you, to see if we should ask husband to help find good husbands for them. Li Yuqing had a strange expression, falling into thought. After a moment, she said seriously. I think this is something we should discuss with husband together. Lu Yunyan thought for a moment and nodded. That works. We can talk to him tomorrow. Li Yuqing couldn't help but smile, covering her mouth. No need to wait until tomorrow, we can do it now. Husband, how long do you plan to keep hiding? The wardrobe door creaked open, and Qingxiu stepped out. Lu Yunyan was dumbfounded. Good heavens, there was someone in the wardrobe? When she saw Qingxiu come out of the wardrobe, Lu Yunyan was stunned for a moment, then silently looked at Li Yuqing's long legs wrapped in black silk straps, and suddenly understood everything. No wonder senior sister would wear suspenders even when sleeping alone, so there was a purpose to wearing them. Lu Yunyan felt a bit ashamed and indignant. Senior sister, how could you trick me like this? Li Yuqing giggled. How did I trick you? You didn't ask whether there was someone else in the room. Besides, husband isn't an outsider, and it's not like the bed can't fit another person. We can just squeeze a bit. Senior sister, you're too bad. Lu Yunyan pounced on her, and the two began wrestling. Of course, it wasn't a real fight, just playing around. Ah. Senior sister, let go. Lu Yunyan grabbed Li Yuqing's hands from her chest and, angry and embarrassed, said, If you don't let go, I'll use my ultimate move. Go ahead, use it if you can. Lu Yunyan imitated Li Yuqing's move and attacked her chest. Li Yuqing did not resist, letting her junior sister's heart-grabbing hand hit her. She even narrowed her eyes, lightly bit her lip, her cheeks flushed, and said teasingly, Junior sister, be gentle. Qingxiu walked over, lay down, and with his arm as a pillow, smiled. Weren't you going to talk about Xiaoro and Xianer? How did you two end up fighting instead? Li Yuqing held Lu Yunyan's hands, making gentle circles, and said with narrowed eyes. Husband doesn't understand, fighting like this is affection, scolding is love. This is how we played when we were young. Oh. Qingxiu drew out the sound, then moved closer and said. Then I'll get closer to you too. With Qingxiu joining in, even though it was 1 against 2, neither Li Yuqing nor Lu Yunyan could win, and their clothes ended up gone. The saying, fighting is affection, scolding is love, was not false at all. As they played, they grew much closer, and since they were already so close, the three simply became sworn siblings, with Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan kneeling in front and Qingxiu sometimes behind Lu Yunyan, sometimes behind Li Yuqing. This went on for half the night. By the time it was late, Qingxiu had an arm around each of them, and Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan were yawning repeatedly, with a look of exhaustion on their faces, but also deep satisfaction. Lu Yunyan asked softly, Husband, you've been hiding in the wardrobe, so you must have heard my talk with senior sister. About Xiaoro and Xianer's future, do you have anything to say? Li Yuqing rolled her eyes slightly, then raised her gaze to Qingxiu and blinked. Of course, Qingxiu understood what she meant. Before she returned to the Miao village, she had already given Xiao Shuixian a hint, but that foolish disciple hadn't seized the opportunity. Qingxiu said thoughtfully, I think their future path should be their own choice. If they don't want to marry, I can't force them into a marriage. We should hear their opinions too. Lu Yunyan nodded. Qingxiu continued. How about this, after these few busy days, bring them here, and we can all sit down and talk about it together. What do you think? Lu Yunyan smiled. That's fine too. Li Yuqing smiled charmingly. We'll do as husband says. Rip. Qingxiu drew in a sharp breath and looked down to see Li Yuqing starting her handiwork. Lu Yunyan, seeing this, quickly moved aside and shook her head. No, senior sister. If you want to fool around, do it yourself. I'm tired and need to rest. Saying this, she wrapped herself tightly in a quilt so not even a gap was left. Li Yuqing rolled her eyes, leaned down, and said indistinctly, "If you don't want it, fine, more for me." After a long time, Lu Yunyan still couldn't sleep. She poked her head out, a bit flustered and annoyed, and said, "Senior sister, if you keep this up, you'll burst." "No, I can't just watch you burst." So Lu Yunyan began competing with Li Yuqing for food. The next morning, Qingxiu went out alone, while Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan were still sound asleep. Today's celebration banquet could not be missed. By mid-morning, he arrived at the Taiji Palace. The palace had been prepared all night since the previous evening. Now, more than 2,000 small tables were set inside, though tables were actually just small table boards without legs. Even the food was pre-made, prepared in advance and delivered one portion to each person. The celebration banquet lasted until evening before dispersing. Smelling of alcohol, Qingxiu returned home and did not visit any concubines that night, sleeping straight through to mid-morning the next day. He had the servants prepare some finely packaged tea and wine, loaded them into the carriage, and went to the Chang residence. After the Chang family servants reported his arrival, Cheng Yaojin came out with his 3 sons to greet him. "Haha, worthy nephew, I've been waiting for you to come." Cheng Yaojin laughed heartily, patting Qingxiu on the shoulder and leading him into the residence. Behind him, Wei Laojiu and several Qing residence servants carried in 2 large chests. In the courtyard of the Chang residence stood a middle-aged couple and an elder in a gray scholar's robe. The couple appeared to be about 50 years old, and the elder looked to be in his 70s. "Father-in-law." Cheng Yaojin smiled and bowed to the elder. "Father-in-law, this is the Duke of Zhen the nation." The middle-aged couple looked at Qingxiu curiously, while the elder smiled and nodded. "Not bad. Just as Jijia said, dignified and impressive, truly a rare young man." Since he was Cheng Yaojin's father-in-law, his status was certainly not low, and given his age, it was worth Qingxiu showing proper respect as a junior. Qingxiu bowed and said, "I, Qingxiu, greet you, elder." "Haha, good. Elder Cui kindly stepped forward to help Qingxiu up, smiling. "Before coming to Chang'an, I was still uneasy, afraid that Cheng Jijia had misjudged you, that you wouldn't be as in the letters. Now that I see you, it's true, you and my little Yuan Yan are a perfect match." Qingxiu smiled. "With such praise, elder, I feel honored. For your words alone, I should toast you 3 cups of wine." Cheng Yaojin smiled and said, "These are Yuan Yan's father and mother." Qingxiu bowed to them. "Greetings, Uncle Cui and Aunt Cui." "Oh, there's no need for such formality." The middle-aged woman warmly took Qingxiu's hand, smiling broadly. "From now on, we're one family. Our Cui clan of Qinghe has no excessive rules. As long as you two respect and love each other, that's enough." Cui Pingting, however, was calmer. He nodded to Qingxiu and said, "My daughter has had a hard fate. A few years ago, she married a scholar from a family of letters, but he died suddenly from illness and excessive drinking, leaving Yuan Yan a widow. Your name I have long heard. Today, seeing you, you are indeed a young talent. To be a duke so young and famed in court, for Yuan Yan to marry such a man is truly the end of her hardships." Look at that, as expected from a member of a great scholarly family, his words were so pleasant. Who would dislike having more wives? Qingxiu was no exception. After all, ever since he crossed over into the Tang dynasty, he had only a few goals: to secure a position that no one could offend, earn more silver, and marry more wives to have many children. The Cui clan of Qinghe held the reputation of being the first household among the 5 surnames, far above the Taiyuan Wang clan or the Xingyangzheng clan. Its position in the literary world was extremely high. Later, the famous Cui Hao and Cui Shizi both came from the Cui clan of Qinghe. Qingxiu cupped his hands to the Cui elders and said, "I heard from Uncle Cheng that the Cui clan dislikes extravagance, so I have not brought precious gifts today. I hope the elders can forgive me." Elder Cui smiled. "You have a kind heart. Gifts are not valued by their amount, but by the thought behind them." Cheng Yaojin instructed Cheng Chumo to send the gift chests to the rear courtyard, then invited everyone into the hall for tea. Under the flowering trees in the rear courtyard, a cool and aloof woman reading looked over with curiosity when she saw Cheng Chumo and others bringing the chests in, and walked over to ask, "Cheng Chumo, do you have guests at home?" Cheng Chumo respectfully said, "Aunt Qingyu, yes, there are guests at the residence. Have you seen my cousin?" Song Qingyu, addressed as aunt, pointed to a room and said, "She's inside. May I ask, which duke is visiting? A friend of your father's or?" Oh, no one else, ч16 said with a grin. It's just my cousin's future husband paying a visit. Aunt, you don't know, Brother Qing is an extraordinary man. Do you want me to take you to meet him? Song Qingyu froze for a moment, her expression turning slightly absent-minded, and her pretty face began to flush. ч16 asked in confusion. Aunt, what's wrong? HM? Oh, nothing. Song Qingyu shook her head. No need for introductions. I'm tired, so I'll go rest in my room first. ч16 didn't think much of it and knocked on Cui Yuanyan's door, telling her that Qingxiu had come to visit. Cui Yuanyan looked shy and a bit embarrassed. Cousin, I won't go for now. You go and listen to their conversation, see what my parents and grandfather think, and come back to tell me quickly. Haha, all right then. ч16 laughed and went back to the front courtyard. As soon as he arrived, he heard Elder Cui speaking in the hall. If Yuanyan hadn't been widowed early, even if it were remarriage, our Cui family would never allow her to enter another household as a concubine. But since Cheng Jijie has already vouched for you, and you don't seem the type to be deceitful or slippery, it's not impossible for the Cui family to set the precedent of marrying a legitimate daughter as a concubine. The ancestral rules of the Cui family will be broken in my generation, but that's fine. Don't look at me as being old, I am not unreasonable. As long as you young people agree, I have no objections. But one thing, you must treat my granddaughter well. If I find out you've bullied her, I will use the full strength of the Cui family to settle accounts with you. Qingxiu smiled. Elder, though I have several wives and concubines at home, they do not fight for favor or scheme against each other. If Yuanyan marries into the Qing household, I can at least guarantee she will not be bullied. Cheng Yaojin said unhappily from the side. I say, old father-in-law, this was a joyous matter, but you've made it sound like Qing here is some wife-beating villain. Shouldn't we quickly settle the marriage instead? Elder Cui glared, raising his hand and blowing his beard. You brat, do you want a beating? Cheng Yaojin shrank his neck and fell silent. Elder Cui snorted, sat back down, and tapped the table unhappily. Aren't we already talking about this matter? Cui Pingting suggested. Father, it's rare for Yuanyan to meet someone she likes. Our family isn't overly bound by formalities. We don't need pomp and splendor, only that the couple live in harmony. Why not keep things simple? You pick a date, have Yuanyan's aunt and younger aunt escort her, and the matter will be settled. Elder Cui nodded. Let's do as you say. I think the 18th day of the 8th month is a good day. Autumn comes, flowers bloom, an auspicious day for marriage. Young Qing, what do you think? Qingxiu cupped his hands. Since Elder Cui has decided, I will follow your arrangement. The Cui family's decision also gave them a way to save face. After all, as part of the 5 surnames and 7 clans, the Cui clan of Qinghe was a prestigious family. For a legitimate daughter of such a family to marry as a concubine was inherently a loss of honor, so it was best to keep things low-key. Qingxiu also thought it was a good thing, keeping it simple saved him the trouble of planning. When the time came, he would just send a carriage to bring her over, close the door at night, blow out the lamp, take up arms, and everything would proceed naturally. Another option for his nighttime visits. Thinking of Cui Yuanyan's graceful literary temperament and beautiful figure, his heart felt warm. Elder Cui stroked his beard and smiled. Since none of us have objections, we should also hear Yuanyan's opinion, shouldn't we? Chumo, go call your cousin here. Since they've already met a few times in private, there's no need to avoid these marriage formalities. All right. Chumo returned to the rear courtyard. But when he knocked on Cui Yuanyan's door, he put on a grave look, which startled her. Seeing his expression, Cui Yuanyan's heart skipped a beat. She took a deep breath before asking. Cousin, what did my parents and grandfather say? Chumo shook his head with a pained look. Ah, cousin, this marriage is. It's all right. Cui Yuanyan's eyes reddened, but she forced a smile and shook her head. If the marriage is cancelled, so be it. Although I like the Duke of Zhen, marriage has always been decided by parents and matchmakers. If my parents don't agree, I won't force it. That's right. A voice came from nearby. Song Qingyu came out of a room to comfort her. Yuanyan, there are many young talents in the world. Since your sister and brother-in-law don't agree to this marriage, don't take it to heart. At worst, your little aunt will find you a man in Luoyang 100 times better than him. Cui Yuanyan gave a bitter smile. Aunt, I think you should worry about yourself first. You're 7 years older than me and still unmarried. Compared to me marrying, I'd rather see you start a family sooner. Song Qingyu curled her lip disdainfully. There are very few men in the world worth my attention. Why must I marry like an ordinary woman? For me, if I don't meet a man who stirs my heart and soul, I would rather be alone for life. Cheng Chumo opened his mouth, then said awkwardly. Cousin, aunt, I haven't finished speaking yet. Who said the marriage was cancelled? Cui Yuanyan froze. Didn't you just sigh and say the marriage was cancelled? Chumo quickly shook his head. I never said cancelled. I said the marriage is settled. I just hadn't finished speaking, and you misunderstood me. Facing two pairs of eyes full of killing intent, Chumo felt a sudden tightness in his backside.
Did you enjoy the story, guys? I hope you did. Support this video with a like and a comment. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching and see you next time.